Well, hello again, and welcome back to the world of VCO Esports, where today we dive back in to the Esports Racing League after a blockbuster showdown 2 weeks ago with the Apex Racing team coming on top against Team Redline. We venture now to Assetto Corsa Competizione in a slipstream machine. My name is Arjuna Kangipati, delighted to be joined once again by Luke Crane and Lewis McLeod as we get set for another afternoon and evening of fantastic racing action. And Luke, it's a format that we've come to love, and after the iRacing IRO 4 2 weeks ago, we now head to the BMW M2 CS Racing Cup car, a car that we know is going to be slow speed and therefore close racing is expected.
Yeah, lack of aero in this car will make it very, very close indeed. Also, the lack of power should keep it nice and close as well. And this will make mistakes massively magnified as well. If you make a mistake here, you're going to lose 3, 4, maybe 5 positions. So yeah, it's a very tough car to get the hang of, but when you do, you can really gap the rest of the field.
Lewis, let's cast our mind back to 2 weeks ago and that showdown that, again, we thought was going to go best of 3, but it ended up just needing 2 of our final races, with the Apex Racing team coming out on top. And after the swing in form that we saw for them in the summer, they'll be delighted to have started off the Fall Cup in winning ways.
I mean, they were properly the dominant force. That's the thing to note, is that throughout the entire run at Fuji in the opening round of the Fall Cup, they looked like they were the strongest team. We just kind of maybe expected it was going to go to the 3 between them at the in the final race, but didn't. Of course, there was a little bit of drama there, a little bit of contact between Redline and Apex came out on top. They'll have a harder task of it doing that today, though, knowing how this car is, knowing that I know obviously they've got that assistance from Unicorn's Love, but they are still more of an iRacing focused team. That's where they're hedging their bets.
It's going to be fun to see as well what GTWR Esports is able to do after winning in the summer on this platform. Can they back it up today? Of course, let's talk about the format that we've got in store for you today as we get set for first heats, then quarterfinals, working our way through the semis, and then best of 3 one-on-one. It's always fun when we get to the final round of these days. But of course, Lewis, it starts in the heats where each team sends one driver into a heat and they battle to see how high they can finish.
Yeah, absolutely. All of our teams bring along 3 drivers to this event. One driver goes into one heat, one driver goes into the next, and then the other final driver goes into the third heat, meaning we see all of the teams out in action over all 3 of the heats. The lowest point scores between the top 2 finishes from their driver will be the teams that move on. The top 14 move on into the quarterfinals, where they'll do battle with all 3 drivers out on circuit at the same time in a 7-team showdown. And then the top 3 teams from that move on to the semi-finals, and the top 2 move on to that final. Will we see 3 races being used today, though? That's the question. I'm not so sure myself.
We do have a wonderful stats collection that has been compiled by our team at VCO that we will be referring to through the course of this event. So we'll definitely talk to you about the storylines. It's a journey that started, of course, with the Esports Racing World Cup at the end of January this year. It's building to the Esports Racing World Cup 2023 when Luke, Lewis and myself will all be on site with the drivers in person for what will be a very different atmosphere with just 12 teams, Luke, fighting in the ERWC.
Yeah, 100%. Again, it's a different environment for a lot of the teams. And considering the global pandemic we've had, there will be, I would say, more than 50% of the teams who may not even ever have done a LAN event, because what has it been, 3 years since we were sort of normal in sim racing? Obviously, the likes of Apex, the likes of Redline, they should be very well equipped for this. But yeah, it's going to be such a new way of doing things for these drivers, being face-to-face as well. They can't be quite as cheeky on the race circuit because they'll get telling off face-to-face verbally. You get other people, they'll get some people that will just shrivel down into nothing, and you get other people that will walk tall with their shoulders out and their chest out strong as well. So yeah, so a really different environment, but we're so excited to be a part of.
You, the VCO community, as always, have had your say for today's racing. Last time we went racing here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, it was at Misano. It was a choice again, but fortunately we will see something new. As Lewis, we head to Zolder, and not for the first time, we head to Belgium.
Yeah, we get to head to Zolder on ACC. It's a tight track. Some drivers, some of us in the commentary booth have struggled with driving around in the moderately recent past. Arjuna, not naming names.
I didn't miss pit lane.
That is true, but you did crash the car twice, so you know
yes.
who's the loser on that one. No, it's a tricky circuit. It's super tight. You've got the first chicane you come across, which is like basically turn 3, turn 4, that kind of bit. Really tight, but so important. This opens up for such a good overtaking zone. There is quite a lot of overtaking opportunities around here, especially in cars like this.
If you are usually watching on Twitch, but you're watching on YouTube, yes, there are technical issues. We are glad you're joining us on the VCO Esports YouTube. Of course, don't forget our multi-language options as well. If you want an international flair, do head over to our YouTube channel to see if we have your language in store. Luke, as we look forward, though, to today, it is kind of looking like we know the 12 teams that will fight in the ERWC. Maybe there is some seeding considerations that will go on, but really, I think what we're fighting for now are spots in the Masters. There's some small prize money in these regular ERL days, but $10,000 in just over a month's time when we get to the Fall Cup Masters.
Yeah, you're right. You know, the World Cup spots are all but sorted, right? You know, there's an outside chance, not mathematically impossible for a team maybe like Patrick Long Esports, but it's almost impossible. But every single round we have is money on the line. There's the Masters at the end, which is worth 10 grand on its own. So yeah, it's all about just maximizing what you can. Indeed, a lot of these teams have only done 2 events, so they wouldn't have really been looking for the World Cup anyway. So yeah, it's all about trying to take away money from the top teams really over the next couple of rounds. There's always something to play for.
Just a couple of minutes before we're ready to go racing. Qualifying for the first of the heats will be coming to a close. Let's talk about expectations and predictions, and I'll come over to you first, Lewis, when it comes to this. GTWR, victorious in the Summer Cup. Can they back it up here in the fall?
I mean, look, they're going to be strong, but there is one team as well that we've said before, time and time again, that maybe they didn't perform the way we expected them to perform the last time we went racing on ACC back in the Summer Cup. It's Unicorns of Love. We were expecting them to be the hard chargers at the front. Well, they didn't get into the finals. I can't remember when they got knocked out, but it was a lot earlier than we were expecting. Redline got knocked out, and the semis. They'll be coming back into this feeling a lot stronger. But if there's one team I would really not count out, it's Yaz Heat. Looking like they've got a very strong line. If they can keep themselves cool, calm, and collected, they will be a very strong team throughout the day.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time for predictions, so Luke can talk about that while I step away. We're ready to go racing at Zolder. It will be Lewis and Luke to talk you through all of the heats. Let's go racing for the first time tonight. We're not ready to go racing. Got conflicting messages there. What's going on? So, Luke, we will get to your predictions right now.
There we go.
Oh, Mike's a nightmare to work with, isn't he? He's just an embarrassment. I wish Hugo was back here. Crikey. 2 weeks ago, sorry, well, I'm talking about Hugo again 2 weeks ago. I'm only joking, Mike. My predictions, I think this is the most wide open game in terms of ACC, because you've got a specialist in terms of GTWR, you've got Veloce, Yazhi, and Unicorns of Love, but also you've got to factor in R8G, Redline, and Apex. They're just going to be great, right? They are probably the three best teams across all of our platforms, so they're always just going to be in and amongst it. So I think there's a realistic sort of 7 teams that go in. Williams Esports, throw it into the mix. They just seem to get the job done or get really good positions towards the end. But when we get to rFactor 2, when we get to iRacing, it tends to only be between sort of 2 or 3 teams each and every time. So I think this is as wide open as we've had so far.
I think an interesting complexion to this one is fixed setups in rFactor 2 and iRacing, open setups in this one. And Lewis, we don't want to really, harp on it too much, but it does mean the teams that spend more time and have more understanding of the platform will have a better base from which to work with.
But it's a base understanding. The thing is, like, me and Luke have spoken about this before we went live because you weren't here. That's fine. But we've discussed quite a bit that this is not a normal car that they go racing in. So even for the proper ACC specialists, even for the likes of Unicorns Love, even for the likes of GTWR, Yazhi, they're still taking a bit of a step into the unknown as well. Whilst they have more information as to how the sim itself works, there are still key bits of information missing from that still level the field to a certain degree.
I will say one thing here, Arjuna, just to butt in. This car specifically, it's very easy to go over the limit, and it's very easy to drive under the limit with this car. So the being perfect is such a fine line. Whereas with a GT4 or GT3, which are in this game, it's a bigger line to work with in terms of being within the tolerances of being over or under. So I'd say this is, it will suit the specialist, but if someone can nail it, they're going to be absolutely in form.
I've been told we are ready to go racing now, so I will step aside, hopefully this time properly. Let's go racing for the first time tonight. Lewis and Luke will talk you through it.
Party at the top of the time.
Well, he finally got it right as we head into the first bit of racing action. Bastian Richter will start the first race on pole position with Apex Racing Team. Well, they looked really, really strong through the Summer Cup. They got their way into the final here. Luke, what can we expect from them today? Bastian Richter behind the wheel. Maybe they've got to start out with a win.
Well, I think that partnership with Unicorns of Love, the kind of loaning each other drivers, is really key. We saw that on iRacing. It maybe didn't come into fruition quite so much for Unicorns of Love as we thought it might do, but ultimately it's been a massive factor for Apex here today. I'm going to say one thing here. Livery watch, best set of liveries we've ever had. Surely this car and the liveries just work so well together.
I don't know what it is, but a lot of these liveries just look really, really smart. Of course, BS Competition there on the left, they look very strong. They've got a lot of ACC specialist drivers, of course, with Gregor Schill, Arthur Camera, Niels Nyocht. Not using all of them today. Got Ryan Barneveld behind the wheel, qualifying up in 8th. There's still important information being handed behind the scenes. Even if you have an ACC specialist in your team that's maybe not on the grid today, they're still passing on valuable information as to how this car actually works.
Yeah, 100%. But you were talking about setup. There's only so much you can do with this car as well. So setups aren't a massive factor as we would have had with the GT3s when we were using Mercedes. So yeah, it really is all about the driver and the car, to be honest. Again, these liveries are absolutely stunning.
I wonder where we're going to see some dramas. Is it going to be down in the first corner, or do you think it's going to wait until the chicane?
Oh, yeah. Because it's a rolling start, I don't think it'll be too bad running through the first few corners. And again, you can get away with running wide. There's a massive curve on the exit of 1 into 2. So yeah, I would say the first chicane, realistically, is the big first choke point. Although the right-hander before it, you're going to see a lot of cars off into the gravel, which is going to indeed check the field up. People are going to try and steal positions that way as well. So who knows, maybe even before. Along that straight, somewhere before the braking zone.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because the first race, heat number 1, about to get underway in the Esports Racing League here in VCO. And of course, round number 2 of the Fall Cup. Bastian Richter on pole position. He'll lead us down towards the first corner, and it's his pseudo teammate alongside Tobias Grunewald. But a big send down the inside. Stutsenko takes over second position as they head through the first complex of corners. A bit of 3 wide in the background as Williams Esports are trying to get stuck in with one of the Veloce teams, as well as they slide their way through in the background. Enzo Benito up to 4th position, getting past Lucas Müller on the start, but it is Bastian Richter with the whole shot at the front, side by side with Barneveld and Marcel Cinchik as they head through the 4th corner onto the back stretch.
Yeah, Barneveld's just shut one up the inside there as well. I think he got it done as well. Yes, he does. Cinchik moves down a position as they do now head down the long straight towards the first of our very, very tight chicanes. You're going to see plenty of curb being used through here as everybody is pretty much, well, side by side, as there was some massive contact there a bit further back. I think we're on board here with Valentin Barriere then. So yeah, he did indeed pull out to try and make a move, but then didn't really anticipate Tajcevic to make the braking manoeuvre so early. But ultimately, on the first lap, you've got to be expecting people braking early, being so close to everyone else. Well, I'll tell you what, he's just been absolutely mugged off there. What a move that is from Brzezinski. So we saw out of nowhere through the right-hand side. Brzezinski says, "Thank you very much, I'll have that, cheers."
Yeah, David Noj will be the next one on the rear end of him. Got side by side in the background as you've got Luciano Wittfurt making a little bit of contact. A new machine has been sent straight off into the barrier. Oh, it's getting a little bit messy back here as Brabham trying to take a look down the inside of Fordzilla as well. Trojedol trying to find his way past Luciano Wittfurt, and it's all a little bit messy. Got one car off in the background also. It's just adding to the calamitous affair that we expect from the midfield in a race like this. It's so easy to trip up over another car.
Yeah, look at the gap already forming then between the front group and then the Balash who are leading the second group here. It's, you know, people behind have been making mistakes because they're just trying to try and get back up to that lead group and ultimately taking too many chances. And these cars being so slow, it's all about your exit speed. Entrance speed is one thing into a corner. Of course, you've got to try and defend very similarly to what Barriere wasn't able to do earlier on. But you have to maximize your exit speed, otherwise you're just going to get mugged off along any kind of straight around here.
Let's see then what Luciano Wittfurt can do to at least keep them at bay. Of course, points are up for grabs for every single position as Fortunal goes for a spin coming out of the second corner. Whilst there might not be that much power, there isn't that much grip either. And doing that looked pretty easy. I mean, you've had a little bit of experience in this car. Talk us through those kind of moments.
Well, yeah, it's just very easy. There's no downforce for the car. So, you know, as soon as the car starts going, it's very difficult to save it. There's no real forces other than yourself able to save it. So if you try to indeed counter steer into that, you're more than likely then going to have a massive shot of oversteer the opposite way, and you're going to shoot off regardless. So it's very difficult to save the car. So again, it's so, like I was saying earlier on, it's so easy to be above the limit, and it's so easy to drive the car below the limit. So to try and find that line, especially early on in a format like this, because this car is not really that overly used within the game, is absolutely vital. As you see a nice little side-by-side action, this is right down the back end. So you see Marius trying to retake a position at the back end here. Not quite going to work out, and it's battle of the craziest names in sim racing at the back there.
Yeah, and Marcel Cinchik's going to pick up a position. Ryan Barneveld running out a little bit wide going into the hairpin. Fadli Rakhmat also might try and get himself involved. Adam Pintesh waiting behind in the distinctive pink and white of our Naj competition as we ride on board with the Legion of Racers machine. A bit surprised not to see a livery on this car, knowing how much Legion of Racers really are on ACC. And he loses out of position to Adam Pintesh anyway. So kind of just getting wrong-footed, trying to go for a move, but then missing out, and he's going to have to worry about Tushkovic as well. He's going to get straight to the inside coming down to the first corner. Triton Racing on a charge directly behind.
The apex is here really, so it's just about not, having lack of confidence in the car in terms of the braking zone and getting close to the apex, and then using the curb and getting on the power. Of course, we've seen already how easy it is for someone like Tajcevic to fall off the circuit. It wasn't Tajcevic, was it? It was the other one with the crazy name. Falling off the track, it's as easy done as just putting the power down a little bit too early. So yeah, it's Rashmat here, a P10. It's not the worst position to be in the world here. Don't take any chances. Don't put your team under any pressure by being outside the top 20 at a minimum. Even if he does lose a couple of spots here, it's 14 teams to go through, right? So a top 14 for your first race, that's pretty good going. That's what you're looking at here. As we're on board then with Enzo Benito, who's gone for the Instagram camera version this time round. As he's gone for the long one. He's currently in P4 here, and again, for Team Redline, P4, you take it, you move on. Grunevold, Statsenko, Bastian Richter is now checking out here as well.
Yeah, obviously trying to make himself a little bit smaller on the camera so that someone in the commentary booth doesn't eye him up all the way through the broadcast. Marcel Cinchik, though, still trying to find his way past Ryan Barneveld. Got very close into this corner the last lap. I think Barneveld might be running out a little bit deep once again, going for a very early apex coming through the hairpin, and Marcel Cinchik doing a bit of a copy-paste on Enzo Benito's camera, rolling with the portrait, but still trying to find his way through. BS competition under a lot of pressure here. Like I say, every single point matters, and so for me, if I'm starting with a 7th and 8th position, something like that, it's a really good place to start, because you don't need to win the heat. You just need to get through to the quarterfinals. That's the important bit.
Yeah, 100%. Again, everybody's going to be relatively good at qualifying. Everybody's going to be relatively good at a hot lap. But trying to keep these cars in check for 10 minutes, you know, or 8 minutes, however long the race is going to be today, that's the difficulty, especially when you're running side by side. As we see some action in the background there, or potential move being made, not quite close enough there. I think that was Barriere, yeah, it was Barriere and Whitfoot there battling just in behind. As we're on board here with Brzezinski, a lovely little look back here on that rear wing, just a stroke of the beard there. You've got to make sure the beard's in check, of course. And then come through then turn number 3, and now it's all about making sure you maximise that power. This is one of the longest straights. There's this, and then there's a start-finish straight down in towards a very harsh braking zone, being the chicane. So if you're under pressure here, you just don't want to leave that door open at the inside. But again, get that good exit, and you've got nothing to worry about as we are on board here then with Luciano Whitfoot, the number 48, just in behind Valentin Barriere. And really, Whitfoot's the one under pressure here, outside that top 14. This is really the strength car for him personally across our roster this season, because he likes the touring cars. There's some real big action in front there. It looks like someone's off the track then. And who just ran off with his contact then in behind as well. And well, things are going from bad to worse. Here's Devon Nage. Off the circuit he goes, and it's going to be pretty much a P last finish from this point.
Yeah, wasn't able to do a bit of a flick spin. David Nodge, more used to running in a front-wheel drive touring car rather than a rear-wheel drive kind of touring car. Is getting around the outside. Managed Gerardis trying to get past Peo Pev at the moment. Still wasn't able to get through. Now Bianchi's trying to pick his way past in the Absolute Motorsport machine. What have you seen?
Livery, sorry, that Brabham livery is delicious. That is so nice.
You're winning bonus points with our broadcast director there. That is, no, it looks very nice on this car. I will say that the green, absolutely spot on. But Gerardis trying to find his way past Pev. Like you say, I think Whitfoot's the one that's under a fair amount of pressure. I think that of this group, I'd argue is almost the slower of the group and is kind of holding them all back.
Yeah, but he's gained himself a freebie there, hasn't he? So again, it's just that's another thing today. If you're in the top 10, just hold your position. Don't try and do anything too silly. Wait for people to make mistakes in front. People are going to be so close today, especially as this goes on. I'm actually surprised how clean this race has been. Although we have seen a couple of little tinkers, but for the most part, it's been very clean indeed. As we now head up towards our leaders, and Bastian Richter is the star of the field right now, 1.1 seconds ahead, and that is an absolute age in these cars. Statsenko, second spot. Grunewald then just holding firm in third position again. He'll be leaning on every ounce of his VCO ERL experience here. Not trying to make any moves, not too worried about finishing any higher. P3, move on, very similarly to P4 in Enzo Benito.
Yeah, like you say, just got to pick his pieces. Wasn't able to keep up with his teammate in the first corner. Tried to get around the outside. Was looking to go around the outside of Bastian Richter, but then had Mikhail Statsenko absolutely lob one down the inside of the very first corner. Has kind of struggled behind ever since, but is still sat there. Is still waiting. Again, third is more than good enough to start with in the heat, but the pressure is building from behind because Enzo Benito's just waiting. There will be, it's going to be quite close. There should be just one more lap after this is how they're coming out. They're running about 1 minute 40 second lap time. So we'll be heading on to the final lap of this race. Bastian Richter holding firm at the race lead as race control throws a message. Patrick Long Esports getting a 3-point penalty for causing a collision whilst this train is being turned up to 11.
Oh, this is incredible stuff here. Then we've got the Fordzilla team there backed by the Brabham team as well. And then we just got up the road the Balash Esports team as well. So that is indeed Whitfoot, Payev and Gerardis all battling for position as it stands. And off the circuit we will go then for the Fordzilla car. And now that's going to open up the opportunity for the Brabham team to make a move. Manos Gerardis is going to send one around the outside here, but can Bianchi as well. Not sure Bianchi's going to have the grip, and actually by Bianchi trying to make the move here, might be under a bit of pressure then from Herlock. And Bianchi does run off the circuit towards then this sweeping right-hander, just about gets across the nose there of Herlock, and will hold on to that position. But nice little exchange from all of them there, but it was more to do with mistakes made than people forcing a move up the inside.
Yeah, Payev just dropping down a position, the Bulgarian driver behind Gerardis now. Having a little bit of a look. Payev is well known, more of an rFactor 2 driver, but is well known as being kind of ruthless with his moves, very aggressive, can really make a move stick when he needs to. So we'll see what he does
championships on this, to be fair.
Has he really?
Yeah, he won the BenQ Challenger Cup a couple of seasons ago on ACC.
My goodness.
Yeah, so he was, and that was with all of the big dogs.
Yeah, he's a quick driver generally.
Oh yeah, he's pretty good, mate. Yeah.
Better than us.
He's above average, isn't he, for sure?
Yeah, well, Bastian Richter is going to come up towards the final corner whilst second place, the battle is continuing. Statsenko is going to hold off Grunewald and Benito, but ahead of all of that, Bastian Richter going to come out of the final corner to take a dominant victory in the first heat here in the Esports Racing League Fall Cup Round 2 on Assetto Corsa Competizione. A big drive there, and I think that was almost expected. We know how fast Richter is. Pev nearly getting spun out just there at the final corner by Bianchi. Come across the line in 16th spot. There were a couple of little dicey duels in that. I'm quite excited for where this is going to go throughout the day.
Yeah, I think the car's potential is being shown here, isn't it? 100%. It's a slower car, which means that they can battle close. But again, I think not many people are taking too many chances there. We did really focus on that top 14, top 15. So no one's trying to send one up the inside, give them teams penalty points. One team that went under the radar there completely, Koana, P5, Lucas Muller, doing a really good job for the team there. But again, if you finish top 10 in that race, you've taken the pressure off of your fellow drivers for your team in race 2 and race 3.
And for the Apex Racing team, what a way to continue that form. And if there is any setup advantage, maybe they have the benefit of working with the likes of the Unicorns of Love and getting some assistance there. But now it's going to be about their iRacing drivers performing after that. Relatively interesting at the start though, Lewis, with plenty of contact and argy-bargy. It did settle down from there.
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be fair, the big talking point of the very first corner of the race was that move from Stetsenko. It was super aggressive. I mean, the door was open. He went for it. And to be fair, to give plaudits to Grunewald, kind of left the room there without trying to take any unnecessary risk, wasn't trying to slam the door shut, wasn't trying to risk anything unnecessary. I mean, Unicorns of Love, they know how to play this game. They know that taking a win in this race just doesn't really matter. Top 5, you get 2 top 5s, you're guaranteed to go through. So it's kind of like just start with trying to tick those off. Outside of that, the Calamitous affair coming particularly in the final sector between the back end of the top 20, it is kind of expected when you've got like such a cars funneling into such a narrow part of the track, going through that second chicane down towards the hairpin. You're always going to get a little bit of contact. So fair enough.
Enjoying the racing that this car is producing though, Luke, and I do think that it's interesting seeing how different they drive this compared to how they drive or drove the iRacing IR04.
Yeah, 100%. But again, it's there's just such a small margin where you can be, at the car's maximum. And we've seen kind of everything there, haven't we? We saw a nice little move there from Brzezinski, a little lunge up the inside in towards the second chicane, and nailed the apex. Then we, of course, saw what you were talking about there, Lewis, at the start of the race, where Grunewald obviously let it happen because Stetsenko had the perfect line going into the right-hander, which was turn number 2. So he didn't really get upended by making the move either. They weren't still side by side. But we also saw drivers making a mistake as well by being on the limit of the car. We don't generally see individual errors in this championship because everybody is so good. And we've already seen one in race number 1. So I'm assuming we're going to see more and more of that as pressure indeed does ramp up.
Just a couple of moments away then from heat number 2 getting underway. We changed the format after the Spring Cup, and that's one of the things that we've been doing as we work through this. We're listening to feedback from the community. We're listening to the feedback from the teams as well. It does mean, Luke, unfortunately, we lose the opportunity for you to say last chance race unless it's a Masters event.
Yeah, of course. I do love where everyone's thrown into one race, and it's just basically more of a lottery. It gives a sort of a second chance, last chance, no more chances after this race. For everybody to watch at home, hopefully we're going to get that in the Masters. Hopefully we'll get that still at the World Cup. But it's just streamlining the format. Otherwise, let's be honest, we've sometimes been here for 5.5 hours, right, for these broadcasts. But even the last one was just over 3 hours, which, in 2022, even me, I'm one of the older generation. My attention span isn't, ready for that kind of long broadcast. So I think it's good in terms of people watching at home.
Well, we are ready to go racing for heat number 2. The start was interesting in the first one. How crucial will it be to get off the line well, or rather to get out of the blocks well in the second one? We'll find out. Again, I'll step aside. It will be Lewis and Luke to talk you through the action at Zolder.
Well, Heat 2, as we head halfway through the heat section, Jeffrey Rietveld has grabbed himself a pole position ahead of Eamon Murphy. Wana looking very good as well for the Koana Gaming car. I mean, you pointed them out in the previous one, flew a little bit under the radar with Muller getting that 5th place finish. They could be looking to book their place straight through to the quarterfinals with a good result in this one. Who knows what's to be expected for our race winners in Heat 1, though. Gael Valero, the driver for them in this one, starting from 9th position. Got a little bit of work to do from there, but I'd still say a 1st and a 9th would not be a bad way to start proceedings here.
No, you've got to maximise it, haven't you? Being Valero, just stay in P9 and your job is done as a teammate. Your third driver can almost go and have a picnic for the rest of the day, and they're all good. Sean Arnold, P8. Big day for Sean Arnold. Again, he can't buy luck. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have none at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the ERL, VCO ERL stuff has gone for him over the last nearly a year, I guess, actually, as it goes. Just get a P8 and you're good as well. Your teammate's done the job in the first race pretty much. You're pretty much golden then to go through to the next stages, and then it becomes a little bit more about your ability opposed to the lottery of what these races are in the heats.
And how good were Fordzilla back in Fuji as well? They were looking very, very strong.
Yeah.
Kind of wonder if that's given them a little bit of a boost in this as well. Who knows?
Yeah, confidence. It doesn't matter what sim you're racing on. Confidence as a team, understanding the format a little bit more, because as much as these are on different sims, I feel like understanding the format and understanding how to get victories in this format much more outweighs the actual sim and the physics, for me personally.
Well, spy cams activated. Jeffrey Rietveld is waiting to take to the start. Eamon Murphy's alongside, and we'll see what the Veloce man could do. Veloce need a decent result in this. Wana, Sarika, and Túnez Phillips, those that will be waiting behind for any sort of mistakes. 10 minutes go back onto the clock as we'll get ready to go racing once again at Circuit Zolder. Yeltayan gets a drive-through penalty for a jump start straight away. Might get adjusted by race control. And Eamon Murphy, boom, with the best race start of all of them from the front row of the grid, sweeps round to take over the race lead. He needs a result for Veloce, and he is going to get it if he drives like that. What a start. Caught Jeffrey Rietveld napping. This is a little bit aggressive. Unicorns love going on the attack. That's Dennis Schuniger to the inside of Jimmy Antunes as they go 3 wide. Harry Phillips looking around the outside for the Wild Things Racing Machine. A little bit of contact, and Arnage going off into the gravel. It's going to be a bit dicey when he rejoins, though, straight into the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and Túnez there, I don't think you have much of a choice but to rejoin like that, because the corner or the gravel just keeps going left, basically, as the track goes right. So had to rejoin as soon as he possibly can. See him moves a little bit further down the order here as well. Oh, it's a massive one. There's a huge one down there, Lewis. And, well, I think anyone outside the top 17 might be in a bit of trouble here.
Legion of Races in there, Carbon in there, Burst in there as well. It's been a calamitous affair, as we were we kind of expect potentially from those towards the back end of the train, and it just got a little bit too dicey considering they were basically 2 and 3 wide all the way down towards the back of the field. I was sort of expecting something dramatic like that, but gotta say, from that race start, what a launch from Eamon Murphy. How brave was he down in towards the first corner to have cleared off from Jeffrey Rietveld that much? Incredible start.
Ironically, his race starts are probably the weakness in his game. Like, he's an incredibly quick driver. He's very, very consistent as well. And in longer races where pit stop strategy comes into it, he's very good at figuring out when he needs to come in. His race starts have always been really the weakness. And if he can nail that, Eamon Murphy is a match for anybody on this sim against any team in the world. So, yeah, good to see him doing as well as he is. Although Rietveld, who's got, again, shout out to the postman who's doing his videography today, by the way. Always great to see the letterbox cam. As we see a spin in the background here, that's Dario Lamulo down in for John Alacy Esports. And there you can see the cluster of cars in the mid-pack here. And it all really comes from Antunes rejoining. It just checked everyone up. So that's why we had the incident into the second chicane here, or the first chicane, should I say, because everybody checked up. And that's why there were 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 wide going through there. So something was always going to give.
Sean Arnold dropping back a couple of positions there, door open, and goes from 9th down to 11th, and that will be 12th now, because Gael Valero, T4, straight down the inside, and wisely picking the result over trying to get a slightly higher position and maybe potentially getting knocked off the circuit. We can see Kapotcha here, of course, the winners the last time we went racing on ACC. GTWR at the moment under pressure a little bit from Charcot behind. Of course, Malinovsky being dragged up with them. And you were saying before, Malinovsky, aggressive driver, super, super fast though. And it's just kind of got to keep it calm, just got to pick up a decent result here.
Yeah, we absolutely just got to try and pick up a decent result. Got to sort of play the team game. Almost, this race is a really weird one. You almost hope that your first driver, well, you definitely hope that your first driver's got an exceptional result, and then you can just almost guarantee your team through. But if you've had a terrible result, the pressure's on for you to go out there and take the pressure off your third driver. So being the second driver, I think, is the most important in terms of your team result over the heats.
Yaltine, I think, making a bit of a dive bomb on Rory McDuff in the background. Things are not going well for Race Clutch. Miller Kangas had a bit of an issue in the previous race, and it doesn't seem like Rory McDuff's going so well, so we might be saying goodbye to Race Clutch fairly soon. And just not looking super strong as they did, of course, on the previous round on iRacing. So we have to wait and see where they head up to. We can see Rayo Largo at the moment for the Aspar Esports team, all over the rear end of Rocket Sim Sports and Ferris Stanley, 14th position at the moment. But a couple of battles brewing also up ahead still. Valero on the rear end now of Malinovsky, and still not able to find his way through, whilst we head back up to Dan Schoeniger on the rear end of Moreno Sarika.
Yeah, just closing in here. Again, Shuniga doesn't need to do anything here. Just chill out. Sarika, again, Williams looking really, really good as well, by the way. So not too much to be worried about here. Wana, this is an incredible performance here from Koana. This is almost going to get, well, we'll guarantee them through to the safe part of this championship. And I would have said, ironically, the ACC would have been their weakest platform, in all fairness. They come from more of a race room background. Lewis, you've got experience on that on sim as well. So I would say race room more rFactor 2, to be honest. But yeah, they're doing really, really well on this sim, actually. As you see a bit of a mistake there from Sarika. Shuniga maybe looking for something to work there. I think the only way you make an overtake in this situation is if you're really under pressure from behind, or the guy in front of you makes such a big mistake that you're easily going to send it around the outside.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see where Dennis Shuniga can find it. But does he need to find his way past? I think that's the other critical question with this, is that the more rounds we see of this, the more teams that we see moving their way through consistently, at least into the semis, they're understanding that sometimes you just do not need to take risks in this. And let's be honest, for Dennis Shuniga at the moment, right on the rear end of Sarika, with a good 1.5 second gap back to Phillips, 1.5 further seconds back to Jimmy Antunes, it's almost a guarantee at this point that Unicorns of Love are moving their way through. So why take any risk with a move down the inside where the likelihood of spinning out, which in this car is quite easy, one little bit of contact and you'll be sent round. There's not much downforce to keep you glued to the road. There's just no need to take that kind of risk. So I'm kind of interested to see. Never mind, we're having a little bit of a heart racing moment, just a bit of a connection. We're all right. We're all safe.
Chitty chitty bang bang, then off into the air it goes. I say the only reason you would make a move, for me personally, is if you feel like your team's going to get through very, very comfortably, you've got no worries, and the driver in front of you specifically is going to be a challenge for you later on. So maybe psychologically go, well, here we go, look what happened in the heats earlier on, and you run that same situation when you get to the semi-finals or the final. I think that's the only two scenarios that you'd be thinking about it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's see. Drive-through penalty has been sent out to Moreno as well. So there's been a couple of issues. So a second drive-through that we've seen of the race. Of course, Jarl Time picking up one for a race start in Fridgeford. Jeffrey Rietveld, I mean, to be fair, considering, I know obviously Rietveld is incredibly fast generally, but more so an rFactor 2 driver, to say how strong he's looking in this car, having pole position and closing back in on Eamon Murphy, who is no slouch on Assetto Corsa Competizione. It shows very well with Rietveld. So 1 second behind, no pressure behind. So Rietveld's doing the charge for Redline to see if they can progress their way further. They got knocked out a lot earlier than they would have wanted the last time we went racing on ACC.
Yeah, but it's just one of those, right? He's the perfect. We sometimes speak about Rietveld as being the slowest redline driver, if that's, can't really use that word, but I think people understand what I'm saying there. But then all of a sudden he qualifies pole, goes out and destroys everyone in a final. Like, he is the perfect driver because he knows also that if he's in a position where he can affect the result by slowing another driver down or almost throwing his race away for a qualifying session, he will do that as well. All he cares about is the end result, Team Redline winning, but ultimately today he's showing some really good pace.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll see if there's going to be any other changes up and down the order at the moment. Everything seems fairly calm with 2 laps left to go. Gael Valero back to this battle as there's been a spin for the MCon Esports team. And they'll be sent even further down the order. They weren't having the greatest run into Zolder with some stuff behind the scenes, and now down to 23rd position with a car that, let's be honest, looks quite damaged. I'm not so sure that's going to be fast.
That looks like I've sat on the front of it, Lewis, and I wouldn't wish that on any car, especially a BMW M2.
No comment. Do you really like the M2? I
love it, mate.
Really? I mean, I think it's a very nice car as well.
Yeah, it's so with DTM, we actually have the BMW, as we see some side-by-side action here. Like I said, if the opportunity did present itself, it's definitely something to look into. And Shuniga is going to leave the room there. I think that's a brilliant move. I think around this circuit, you're going to have a little bit of door banging, unfortunately. As we see here, Simoncic now for Burst Esports facing the wrong way. That is not what they want to see. That's for sure. And again, we haven't seen exactly what happens there, but it's so easily, once you're facing sort of half the wrong way, you're more than likely going to face the full wrong way. But yeah, back to the car itself, we have the BMW M2 Championship as a support series for DTM, and the racing is always absolutely ridiculous. But in that series, they draw they've got all the same cars each week, but the drivers draw a different car and a different set of engineers every week. It's really quite crazy, actually. So yeah, these cars are just really there to test a driver, a young driver specifically, their ability just to handle a car in a race situation.
Yeah, because like you say, there's not much downforce on it, not that much power. So it's not like too scary, but it's enough to keep you in check. A bit of slip and slide. You got to catch it. You got to drive it. As Dennis Juniger gets past Sarika, he instantly makes a mistake down into the first corner though. After that super move, you don't want all that hard work to be unfolded in one mistake. But I think that's what we might see. Doors open, and Moreno Sarika is going to come straight through, coming down to T4. Lovely display between these two.
I love it, and you can see there Sarika, who's not known for his smile, just giving a little bit of a smile there. He was almost frustrated behind, but he's reciprocated nicely here. You've got to think Phillips and Tunes, they'll be looking in the background thinking, oh, you can keep this up for this next lap. Although we are on the final lap here, aren't we? Yeah, you can keep this up for the next few corners here. Maybe there's a couple of extra spots here. Valero said just stay around the top 10 mark here. You're in a golden position, and he absolutely is right now. Doesn't really want to get involved with Jacob Charcot in front, or maybe even Capoccia. Just stay in P10, get your team safely through, and again, continue the form that Apex are on. They are the form team in the ERL as it stands.
Big time. They are looking so strong. They were so strong through the Summer Cup, reaching finals left, right and centre, winning left, right and centre, looking to try and continue the trend, at least getting through the competition. Gael Valero will look to the inside and send it down the inside of Charcot with a beautiful move down into the hairpin. Just pull it up, a little bit of contact between the two, but the drive off around the outside should be superior to Charcot, given the inside towards that chicane. It's the final lap of the race, coming out of the final corner. Eamon Murphy, after that brilliant launch, is going to take victory ahead of Rietveld and Wanner, who does a great job for Koana Gaming also behind. What a super effort. You've got Williams Esports in the background as we head back to Gael Valero. Oh no, there's been contact between himself and Charcot, and that was exactly what Apex Racing did not need to risk. You said it earlier, did not need to get involved with that fight at all. 10th would have been good enough, and now potentially looking at a slam dunk penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we need to see that once again, really. But as you see, Race Clutch here trying to grab some positions here with Rory McDuff, Dalla Valle, then just up ahead here, holding firm as well. But it looks like things very close. But again, you're seeing this from the front end, the front group to the middle pack, indeed to the end of our grid here. There are battles all over the show. And I think you'll find that Gael Valero might have put Apex in a bit of trouble here. Great performance in race number 1, and it was almost a perfect performance for race number 2. But ultimately, that might be, again, like you said, a slam dunk penalty there. And considering how, we have penalty points here, how that will affect the team, it remains to be seen.
I think if you do get a penalty in that scenario, you're more likely to get a 3, maybe a 5 point penalty, which realistically speaking should put them in the worst position. They'd still be fairly likely to move through after that victory in the first one from Bastian Richter. But Arjuna, he just did not need to get involved in that battle at all.
I had myself unmuted because I was getting ready to come back on camera, and I'm glad that I extinguished any noises, because my word, what a dramatic way to finish. And the worst part was, in some ways, Lewis, that you could tell that Valero wanted to redress. He wanted to give back the position and try and mitigate a penalty. But because it's out of the final corner, he couldn't do that. We'll take a look at a quick replay here of that final moments in the battle for just inside of the top 10, and just talk us through this again, Luke.
Well, yeah, it was, these two have been battling for, well, not really battling, to be honest. Valero played this absolutely perfectly. He didn't really try and make any potential moves, but it's a lunge, again, it really is a lunge from nowhere initially, but holds the apex nicely, leaves the perfect amount of room around the outside, and then, with the nature of corners, being on the outside, you're going to get more power down earlier, and then it comes down towards the final chicane here, and Valero just doesn't need to be there, does not need to go through here side by side, but he's trying to force him offline. They come through, across the curbing they go, and he's just driven into him. Like, there's no need for him to be there. Just get off the power, and you're all good. But I don't think there's anybody. I think I could safely say 100% of people out there, even Apex fans, okay, maybe not Apex fans, will all be saying, yeah, it's just the slam dunk Valero. I'm telling you, Paul Clist is out there going, no, it's definitely not Apex fault. So, shout out to Paul. He loves Apex.
One thing that I would immediately squash is this notion that it might have been intentional, because there were a couple of people suggesting that in the YouTube chat. No, I'm not. Yeah, not even going to entertain that as a thought. We will give Race Control a couple of moments now, because without a shadow of a doubt, there is at least one incident that begs some penalty points, and therefore will change our results heading out of heat number 2. But let's shift our attention not to Veloce. I want to talk about Koana Gaming here, Lewis, because wow, they are on fire, it seems, in this car.
Well, again, having a chat before about those that might challenge to get into ERWC II. Koana Game is kind of one of those ones where if they'd had, and they would have to have a much better run on the iRacing mod, they would have to basically have won it, and then it's still unlikely. But with this kind of form, I'm actually a little disappointed that they're so far behind the points because they obviously missed the Spring Cup. Because I would love to see them in the ERWC because they are such a strong team. Despite, of course, Ben Hitz, who's away for this day, he's a little bit sick today, so obviously feel well soon and all that. The team, they're just so strong, and they've basically guaranteed their place in the quarterfinals. They seem to get along with this car very, very well. Semis, very much on the table. Finals, maybe that's getting a bit too far ahead of ourselves, but I wouldn't rule it out right now.
Agree. I will say one thing. Sorry, Arjuna. It is a shame that they've missed so many of the earlier rounds in this to get to our World Cup because they would have been really good on land. Like, they've all got a lot of experience of that. As much as they are a very young team still and young drivers, like, they've got experience of being at these events. They tend to have all of their drivers running at the Sim Racing Expo in finals of various competitions. Like, they are well versed with it as well. So yeah, it's a huge shame, but it's not deterring them, is it? It's, oh, do you know what? We're still going to put on a show here. We're still going to try and take as many dollars as we possibly can away from everyone else, which is exactly what you would do in that situation.
You're right.
To go back to Lewis's point for a second in terms of getting to the final, I was just looking through that stat sheet during that last heat, and I noticed that we've had 5 individual pairings in the final. 4 of them involved Team Redline. One of them did come on Assetto Corsa Competizione when Apex Racing Team and GTWR went head-to-head, but Luke, I think you said this earlier, this very much is one of those events where there's no expectation of who's going to be on top. It's wide open and it's all out there.
Yeah, there are 4 teams that, you know, you'd say are ACC specialists. You know, Yassi, Veloce, of course, GTWR, and Unicorns of Love. Like, you know, no one's going to argue with that. And again, again, judging by what you just said about a couple of them saying it was intentional, maybe there are a couple of people that would argue with anything that we'd say. But yeah, there's those 4. But then you've also got to factor in Redline, you know, RHE, and indeed Apex, who already look strong here, right? And the car being a car that's not really used in any of the major championships. It's just a new challenge for everybody. So factor that in. I just think that's why it's going to be so wide open moving forward here. And Unicorns of Love, as much as they, you know, obviously are an amazing team, they haven't been standout. Whereas another ACC championships would be like going, oh yeah, they're right at the front every single race from the word go. It's not been the case today.
I always, when I think about the fact that rFactor and iRacing are fixed setup and ACC is open setups, I go back to, I think it was during the Spring Cup at Bathurst, when Niels Naujoks found in his heat race that the setup was undrivable that he had. So he noticed another driver's setup on stream, elected to copy a couple of things over and improve his setup, and then suddenly won the next race he was competing in. And I do wonder how drivers are evolving this car, Lewis, as we work through the course of the evening.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this scenario, you've got to be super adaptable. Those teams that go well through an even like this, you've got to be adaptable. You kind of got to think a little bit outside the box. And like, for example, I know, obviously, as Luke was saying, there's not much that you can tweak on this car, but still, those tweaks do make a subtle difference. And when it's on a grid that's this tight, a subtle difference is all you really need to sometimes take that step forward to, instead of qualifying 15th, that might get you to qualify 10th. 5th, hey, maybe even a little bit further forward than that. And it's why you kind of got to keep your eyes open. And when everyone does stream this kind of stuff, I don't blame anyone for kind of checking out other people's streams and being like, go on, just click the setup button, let's have a look, go on, see if they get a little bit complacent with it.
Yeah, I do remember when I joined my IndyCar team on iRacing, they made sure that I did not share any of the setups with my other team because, yeah, those 500 setups are secretive and got to be careful with leaking stuff on stream as well. Let's talk about something else while we let Race Control kind of work their way through it. We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk about it a little bit more now, but the print magazine for the digital world, VCO Send It, we're nearing the 2nd edition of this, and all 3 of us have been fortunate to contribute to this one, including Luke for the very first time, who sat down with his favorite driver in the whole wide world, Enzo Benito.
Yeah, we've got the middle page spread where we're just literally led there in poses with our clothes off, so it's an issue you should definitely... No, we just had an interview about his career and his favourite parts of his career so far, and, you know, him being a pioneer of the world of sim racing. It's a nice little chat, really. You know, a lot of you out there, all you sim racing nerds who don't leave the house, a bit like me, you would know his story, but it's nice to hear it from the horse's mouth. But to other people who are new to this a little bit, and you know, may have heard, oh, Enzo Benito's pretty good, and you hear about his life and how humble he is. He's a really nice chap as well. So yeah, it was nice to have a little chat. And we didn't take our clothes off, I promise.
And you're not just going to be able to read that, but you'll be able to listen to the conversation as well, right, Luke?
If you've got ears, you're good. If you've got eyes, you got good. If you can't read and you can't hear, then, well, sorry.
And then, of course, Lewis and myself, we resurrected another argument within the world of sim racing and went at it for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, obviously battling over best driver this time. We'll get to best track eventually. I know, obviously, we want to have a massive fight about that, but because you keep
my
changing
opinions
what
are
your
changing
favorite
there, yes.
Every time, it's just sort of like, oh, no, it's something different now. Well, I'm just waiting for him to kind of cycle around until his number one circuit is Bathurst, and then we'll do the session. Then we both agree, and it's fine.
No, but you'll have to pick something else. Remember that in some of our debates, we've had to play devil's advocate for the sake of the argument.
That is true.
Why don't you do per like continent, and then do after 5 you do then the world famous track? Like,
I think that is a
actually,
good point.
No, hold on. No, people listening to you once is bad. They've got 5 times. That's,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think what we should do though is I like this idea. We should do a VCO track vote bracket and vote using our community, the best tracks in the world, because of course we use the community to pick the tracks that we race at. We had Mizano versus Zolder, and Zolder won comprehensively, which is good to say, but I think it would be interesting what our community has to say about that. Maybe our boss, Florian Husper, will get on that. We are going to step aside for a couple of moments, race control, have a couple more things still to work through before we're ready to go for the final of our heat. So we'll be right back for the final heat of this ERL Fall Cup round on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Well, welcome back. Race Control still working away on a couple of incidents, so Heat 2 results not yet final. Before we move to Heat 3, we will let Race Control finish up their job, so a couple of minutes for us to fill the time and to chat with you, our community. Let us know where you're watching from and who you're rooting for. I'm sure Luke Crane will be delighted to talk a little bit more about that as we work through the course of the rest of the evening's action. Plenty of fun at Zolder already, but we're looking at the Fall Cup, and with the iRacing IRO4 already having seen some action, today the BMW M2 CS Racing Cup. Lewis, next time we head to your neck of the woods, to rFactor 2, and to a stock car that has plenty of power.
It does. It's got more downforce than you think. You'd normally expect, like, with the Cup cars, they're basically no downforce and 900 brake horsepower. The horsepower is correct. Like, you do have a lot of power and not that much grip going to the rear, but there is a bit more downforce. It's a lot quicker than you'd think. I did give it a little bit of a go not too long ago. I was hesitant. I said that before. Obviously, we've not got racing in it yet, so who knows? But before, when it was announced, I was like, I don't think that's a good call. But now I've actually kind of driven it. I'm like, actually, I'm more enticed by this now. I'm very curious to see where we're going to go, like what kind of tracks we're going to race on. Maybe we do throw in a bit of a random oval, but that might be a bit of a stretch too far. But who knows? Something exciting, something different.
Disagree. I think Florian should be right now going, yeah, let's pick 2 ovals. Good job.
Yeah, why not?
Choose your favourite oval. We'll have an oval section for this ERL. Something different. Why not? The whole format's different, right? Just as well.
So Daytona for maximum chaos, and to ensure we still have chaos, let's go to Bristol.
Yeah, you've got short track and you've got yourself a super speedway. Like, it's 2 options. I think that would be amazing. I'm not sure how ovals run in the game specifically. Lewis, you could give us that, whether there might be limitations because of that, but why not? This is a pioneering championship, right? The format is pioneering. The way the drivers, being paid is pioneering, because they can win money like every week, and it's just different opportunities. Like, why not do something just out of the box? I think it'd be great. And I reckon if you just asked everyone in the YouTube chat right now, if you put it on Twitter, they'd be like, yeah, well up for that for a week. That'd be amazing.
Something different, yeah, absolutely. I don't know what, like, oval-wise, rFactor does work on ovals. Obviously, it's arguably not the best sim on ovals. It's not what it's built for, but it does work. There are ovals on there. You've got a fair choice between some that work, of course, Daytona being recently released. You do have some other ones on there, obviously some unbranded one called Apple Valley, which is Fontana. So there are a fair selection of some that you can go racing on. There are some oval championships on rFactor too. So it's kind of, again, it's an interesting, slightly different dynamic that I'd be excited to see, because it's just something different, something to really spice up the formula. And I'm sure this style of racing on that would be really unpredictable.
Yeah, we just have to make sure that we have cautions disabled, because I'm already having flashbacks to the inaugural Cup of Nations that VCO partnered up with Williams Esports for, where we had the Indy cars at Indianapolis, but we had caution laps not counting and enabled. The worst 90 minutes to 2 hours of my life. That is very much a moment we try not to talk about. However, race control is done. We're ready to go for the 3rd and final heat. Again, I will be watching on with you in the YouTube chat. Lewis and Luke will again see some racing at Zolder.
Well, it's been a long delay, but we are finally ready to get back racing, and we'll see what's going to happen in the all-important 3rd and final heat. As much as we've said before with how the format's changed, we don't have a last chance qualifier anymore. This is effectively it, though, isn't it? One final race to decide who goes through to those quarterfinals. George Boothby and Blyer on the front row of the grid. This is going to get exciting.
Certainly is. I've literally just sent a tweet, though, to @VCO Esports, saying ovals next time, please, winky face. So if anyone wants to tweet @VCO Esports on Twitter, again, @VCO Esports, you could do that right now. And let's bully Florian is doing ovals. Anyway, this is an incredible front row right there. George Boothby, expecting him to be up in the mix here. In practice, he looked absolutely incredible. You were watching earlier on. Dominic Blyer, incredible drive, right? Kevin Siggy in 3rd spot. Luke Whitehead, of course, was probably the main driver from GTWR when they did indeed pick up the championship on ACC. Then we've got Gregor Schill, who's in P5, who is an ACC specialist racing for BS competition. Then we've got Jamie Fluke down in 6th position. I'm not sure we've seen him that low ever in qualifying. That is an incredible top 6.
Yeah. Absolutely, and who's going to go through? Those that are on the bubble, really. You've got Triton back there. They're in 13th at the moment. They could very well do with a second place. You've got someone down there, R8G, 15th at the moment on the points. A couple of teams that really would need a good result in this. The likes of Redline, Unicorns, Love Carolina, they're all pretty safe right now. But you've got to avoid the drama, and Blyett surely needs to kind of win this race.
Yeah, I think, well, just guarantee yourself a top 3 here. Don't do anything too crazy. But yeah, a win kind of a minimum if we're going to be completely honest here. But we're off to the race. We're nearly ready to go.
Yeah, George Boothby is going to start it from pole position for Yaz Heat, looking for a victory. Starts alongside Dominic Blyer, and the third and final heat is about to get underway. Let's see who's going to take the victory and who's going to be moving through into the quarterfinals. We're underway once again at Circuit Zolder. Look at that start from Gregor Schill straight to the inside of Kevin Siggy in the background. Boom, moving his way from 5th to 3rd for BS Competition. Absolutely sends it in there, and Kevin Siggy might drop back another position also as he's moving backwards 1, 2, 3 spots. He's not having a great start here for Team Redline, as Boothby's going to hold the front. Marco Pajic at the moment going side by side with one of the enlarged competition cars of Alexander Vermont, who's now losing out to Dara McCormack also. Big off in the background, that'll be Burst, I think, on their rejoin, but outside of that, it's been pretty clean, to be honest.
Be very clean there again. Jamie Fluke nearly trying to make up a position there on Kevin Siggy. Not quite going to work out, but Siggy has dropped 2 positions, but his team have done exceptionally well so far, so no real need to be putting any crazy moves in as we go down towards the braking zone. It looks like Williams Esports car might have just been sent off there. Not sure exactly what happened. No, they're all good. A bit of argy-bargy, but everyone went through relatively cleanly.
I think it was Gianmarco Fiducci getting sent off a little bit by Quinta Violate there, and of course Gianmarco Fiducci, who had his first ever esports WTCR victory around here. I'm sure it's a circuit that he's got close to his heart and will want to get another decent result. We ride on board with Yvonne Herfelaar back into the championship. Good to see her back in, obviously after a pretty horrendous crash in real life, and looking strong as 26th position at the moment on the rear end of Nico Hillebrand at the moment, as Patrick Long Esports continue a bit of a struggle, and that was nearly into the rear end. Hillebrand on tight.
First of all, I'd love, massive shout to Yvonne, who's driving in the Big Brother chair from around about 2003. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But yeah, doing a pretty good job here down in 20. I think now 25th actually, because there's a car off the server. Well, there's a massive send there by Hildebrand, and that takes, I think, Teichmann off. So Teichmann is, well, yeah, massively off there. Teichmann actually runs the DTM Esports trailer at the DTM events actually, and he's just qualified to race for Mexico.
Yes, I saw
FIA
that.
Motorsport Games. So yeah, massive shout out to him. Lovely chap as well. And he actually let me borrow his scooter all weekend this weekend in Rebel Ring, and it's quite far for me to travel. So really appreciate it. And now look at what we're on board with Yvonne, and then as soon as we go on board with Yvonne, looking great, and then there's a mistake. We're saying all the praises, and there's the commentary curse from both of us.
I don't believe in the commentator's curse, but that is awful luck. A bit of a shame there, unfortunately, but Yvonne Herfelaar will be able to continue on in this race. As we look at Dara McCormack, Marco Pajic directly ahead back to Gianmarco Fiducci. Obviously, these two said before, last time they were into the chicane, they got into a little bit of contact. Fiducci sent it up and over the curbs. He's going to get alongside, and he's going to try and make a move on Quintin Violate here. R8G Esports and Team Fordzilla going side by side, and Eric Andre directly behind. Here's the send from Gianmarco Fiducci, still side by side, skipping over the chicane. Quintin Violate going to hang on to the position, and Garcia's also going to try and get involved in the mix, but for the Aspar team, but just drops off a little bit. That exit not good enough for that red, white and black machine directly behind, but Gianmarco Fiducci's feeling a bit racy and feeling a bit aggrieved, I think, after the contact between himself and Violate.
Lovely to see there. I think the biggest thing you can take from that is that Violate would have got a warning for track limits. So 2 more of those, and he's going to be in trouble here. So if you are Fiducci, you've just got to keep putting that pressure on. Get a move by that. So as we see, a very strange camera here from, I would say, gear stick cam or of some sort, or maybe the water holder cam or some sort. It's just very odd, and well, it's a great right arm. But it does show how the screens, obviously we've never really seen triple screens in action, as we see Gianmarco Fiducci with a big send down into the first corner. But yeah, Rice there showing off the setup from a slightly different angle, which to be fair, I'm all for to see from slightly different angles, but a bit of an odd one. But yeah, Fiducci trying to make it stick on Quintin Violate, back up to Dara McCormack, who's in this train. Boothby's cleared off from it. He's 1.3 seconds clear of Dominic Blyer, Gregor Schill, Whitehead, Siggy, Fluke.
It's a pretty tasty battle. It's a tasty group of drivers that are all going to try and battle it out. And Dara McCormack sat there at the back waiting for his opportunity. And Williams Esports looking to book their place. Currently in the middle of the in the middle of the pack of those that have already done results and whatnot. They're looking good to move on to the quarterfinals. 8th place would just be a good one to throw into the mix.
Yeah, it wasn't us that actually indeed cursed Yvonne. It was Danny Gieser, who's currently in the YouTube. And also, that's not how you say his second name. He said it in a video once, how he says his second name.
Oh, Gianmarco.
Oh, yeah, that is... I'm not sure if there was actually contact there, if I'm honest. I'm not sure there was. We'd have to see that again from a different angle, but I'm not sure that there is contact. But just want to say, Danny said his name one time in a video, and he's lying to everybody. It's actually Gieser. Facts. No way the way he says it is right.
Did you say Danny Juicer or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it's Juicer.
Yeah, I think it's Juicer.
Absolutely no chance.
Flat out wrong. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the joy of being a commentator, is that if we don't like how your name is, we can just change it.
Well, no, they should really send a nice email to their parents and say, look, this is now how our name should be said.
How does Bono deal with that one? Bono House?
He's got no choice.
Please. Just
Yeah,
make it
I
up as we go
sent
along.
an email directly to his dad.
Oh dear, poor guy. Anyway, we're halfway through this race, and Gianmarco Verducci has an Eric Andre. But see, I think there was contact. I only saw it once very quickly. I think there was contact between himself and Quinton Violarte. I don't know. Like that again, that's one that race control will have to take a long look over. But either way, not a great spot for Team Fordzilla right now.
No, and again, I'm 36 years old, guys, so that could be my age more than anything. But it just looked like it was a case of put the power on. It looked like someone had absolutely annihilated them, right? But they didn't look close enough from my eyes. But I only saw it once, so you can crucify me all you like, but I'm just old.
And race control get to look over it as many times as they want from any angle, so the correct decision will come to us. And also, whenever we get to take other looks at all these instances, sometimes our opinions do change, and maybe this will be the case. I will have you talk over this one because I want to see what your opinion is now.
Well, first of all, we've got two cars doing jumping cars over the first chicane. Love to see that. Through the left-hander, we will go down the hill. And well, there's a little bit of an overlap to work with here. Verducci has the momentum.
It's a light tap.
There was contact there, ladies and gentlemen, and I told you that from the very beginning.
I will say it was a very light touch, but when you're at that point, a light touch, a hard touch doesn't really matter. You're going to spin them out. You're kind of, as you're turning right, you're bouncing over the curb a little bit. The rear of the car is just totally unweighted. It only takes one little light tap to have the send, as we can see a sort of cat on the rear end of Rice, and also Lukacek directly behind. Oh, sorry, Attila Bushi directly behind that, with Lukacek directly behind that for Carbon Sim Sport.
Yeah, it's it doesn't matter where we're looking on the circuit right now, is it? There's just going to be close racing all over the show right now. You've got racing, and you've got Garcia just up ahead as well. Garcia is more of a specialist. Sodicat's more of a specialist on this sim as well. So actually surprised to see him quite as far down the order as we're seeing, to be completely honest. But then again, I'll be that surprised. Look at the names up ahead there. You've got Luca Berg, you've got Andre, you've got Verducci, Roman, Dara McCormack, who I think is the most improved driver on this sim period over the last 12 months. Really is world elite level now. Like, he was running quickly, and if you put all of the top 100 drivers in ACC in one race, I think he would quite comfortably be in the top 50. But as of now, I think you're putting your money on him to be at least top 5, maybe winning races now. That's how good he's becoming.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I again commentated on Dara McCormack a year or so ago, and never mind, Marco PHC. I was about to say Veloce having a really good race in this one. Going to lose only one position to Dara McCormack. Could kind of see Marco PH was taking a defensive line there and completely messes up the second chicane. They're doing good enough with a 7th position in this, and obviously a first in the previous race to move their way through at the moment. Just 2 drivers for Veloce this evening, but yeah, PH, potentially a costly mistake. I think he'll be all right from it, but still, certainly a scary moment under pressure from the ever-improving Dara McCormack.
Yeah, we've got here on board with Maciej Minek, currently for Unicorns of Love. They're going to be safely through as it stands. I don't think it's going to be anything to be too worried about. Just keep yourself out of trouble here, and then you're all good. But again, it's just a surprise to see them not dominating races as we've come to expect here. So actually, we see Lukacek here getting a lovely bit of overlap here up towards turn number 1, trying to force Buxi to not squeeze him out wide here, but it's a little bit too late there. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to get the overlap as soon as he possibly can to then squeeze him onto the apex here and then force him to run out wide, which he's done successfully. And he's now oh dear. You know what? I'm not so sure that that's still on Lukaszek there. I think Buxy has come across his bonnet there, and he's not quite clear to do so. You can't be expecting people to get off the gas when it's a flat-out part of the circuit. So we'll have to see that once again. But I think that was just textbook driving from Lukaszek, put far too much pressure on Buxy, and Buxy then has just made a mistake by then trying to almost hold on to it from a desperate situation.
And unfortunately for Mirror Esports, that will be the end of their day. They have not had good enough results up until this point, and that certainly will not add to it. Gregor Schill trying to find his way past Dominic Blyer at the moment, all over the rear end of the Triton Racing machine. Pulled out a little bit of a gap on Whitehead and Siggy, who continue their battle for 4th position. And Gregor Schill trying to find his way past, avoiding the triple screens and going for an ultra wide, a couple of ultra wides as well, as our race leader coming down through the final complex and up towards the final chicane. I mean, what a drive it's been from George Boothby. As we saw from Eamon Murphy in the previous one, it is completely dominant so far. P1 Esports with John Lacey Esports Academy getting a 3-point penalty as well, as Boothby comes out of the final corner to take victory in the 3rd and final heat. Blyer, Schill, Whitehead and Siggy will come across the line all in one train behind. A dramatic start to the race, but a fairly calm end, all things considered. A bit of drama in the middle, but I think for a lot of these teams, they just needed to take a decent result. I think Luca Burke as well for Rocket Simsport, that result might be good enough to move them through into the quarterfinals for the 12th spot.
Oh, we're still seeing some door banging here as we come across the line. Mattia Krupi here is going to come across the line in 22nd. He's got Teichmann and in front of him and Buxy. But I will say one thing. Qualifying is absolutely key with this car because of the seating position. It's the visibility being, because naturally they're all going to be really close to each other because the cars are slower. As we see here, Matteo Bellondi moving on Yvonne Hufela, not quite going to work out. But yeah, the seating position in this car, for me, I think if you're not right at the front, you haven't really got a clear view of the braking zones, the apex, the turns, and it's all about fighting the steering wheel with this car because it just doesn't have that aero to turn in for you. So yeah, I think qualifying P1 here, again, it's as much as we expect them all to be relatively close here. It's no surprise to me that the likes of Boothby, if they do get P1, will be able to just drive away.
Just taking a look at the results, or provisional results as they're being updated right now, a couple of things stand out to me, guys. For teams already, provisionally have locked themselves into the ERWC. We say goodbye after these heats to R8G and to Burst Esports, Lewis.
Yeah, I know. Big results. Burst, they got involved in a lot of drama. Of course, Umeshima got sent off in the first heat, and then we did see Yone Simicic being sent off basically at the 4th corner in the 2nd heat, and then being spun around going into the first chicane also. So Burst having a bit of drama. This is certainly not their chosen platform. Umashima's their iRacing driver, Yone Simicic is their rFactor 2 driver, so it's kind of almost expected they weren't going to do too well here. But R8G are a big casualty early on, at least, yeah, again, provisionally. We will just add on that one. Just not really having it, get involved in a lot of drama. Obviously, in that race, Quinta Violate getting into a bit of fisticuffs with Gianmarco Fiducci. And yeah, they'll be missing out potentially on the rest of the competition today.
I came into the points overall 2nd, so it's going to be close between them and the likes of BS Competition, Unicorns of Love, as it shakes up right now. As we head out of the heats, though, guys, I want some of your thoughts about the racing that we've seen so far and what it bodes for the increasingly chaotic and physical nature of the racing that lies in store for us, Luke.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, right? Everybody's really close. The lack of power, the lack of downforce, it's all about forcing someone in front of you to make a mistake, and being in front of someone else is about trying not to make those mistakes realistically. And as the further we get on through this competition, the more chances people are going to start taking here. It was a pretty tame heats, I would say, considering the nature of the car, the nature of the circuit, and just the power of the car specifically. But as we go on here, I think anything can go. And when we get to the semi-finals and maybe even the finals, it will just be a train. It'll be a train of cars. It'll be people. Maybe there might be some little nudges here and there just to try and find some sort of gap to work with. But yeah, I just think we're going to see the closest races we've seen so far.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get Lewis's thoughts in a moment, but now we're going to be joined for a moment by the GTWR team manager, Giorgio Simonini. And after the success that GTWR enjoyed in the Summer Cup and becoming one of the few winners that we've had in the Esports Racing League, they have backed up that performance here so far as they look to lock themselves into the quarterfinals. Giorgio, thanks for joining us. And let's talk a little bit about the recap of the mood in the team after that success in the summer.
Indeed, good evening everyone. It's a pleasure, to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And yeah, indeed, it was, a special event. The last one we had in the Summer Cup, so definitely we want to replicate it. Of course, we have, as usual, very tough competitors out there, such as Veloce, Redline, Unicorns of Love, so we always need to face them, and of course we're excited. We're struggling a bit with the car as we are not experienced with it, but it's the exciting part of taking part in the VCO esports competition, which we really enjoy with this new system, and indeed we are really excited to see how it goes in the quarterfinals and so on till the finals.
What have you learnt as a team about this competition as you look forward to maybe next year and not qualifying for the Esports Racing World Cup in 2023, but challenging to make it in 2024?
Yeah, definitely it's a new program that everyone is enjoying, I think, like short races, a lot of battles, it gives you the motivation to extract the maximum pace you have in just a little, short time. And indeed, it basically shows off the skills that every driver has in the series to show off, and I definitely enjoy it. The team enjoys it, and if it goes forward, I think everyone will definitely see this as a winning, I think, format, and definitely, we all want to see entertainment, and I think VCO is doing a great job in this.
And in terms of the summer, it's been great for you and the team with not one but two championships in the SRO Esports GT World Championship Americas in both the Pro and Silver classes. How much of a relief for the team has it been to continue the form that has been building over the course of the year?
Yeah, indeed, this year has started a bit struggling, but wow, this summer was very interesting and exciting to see, the Summer Cup win, having seen this SRO win in America with Luke and Chris. It's been amazing, honestly. Of course, we are still growing, improving, etc. You never stop yourself. You know that in racing, it's always, keeping yourself and improving for each championship, race by race. And indeed, you take the learnings, but also when you win, you try to see where you can still improve. And definitely, we know where our improvement should be, in multi-platform. We are really solid in ACC, but we need to grow more and more, and that's our goal, of course. And yeah, that's it.
You're not just team manager at GTWR Esports, but after going full-time in the sim racing world in 2018, you are now representing Lamborghini and the manufacturer. How does that feel for you and your as you reflect on the journey that you've been on in this crazy world of esports?
Yeah, that's an emotional question, as I started back then in 2018, and seeing the growth that actually sim racing has done is very important for me, joining a team like Lambo was such a dream back then, and being now in a team like this is like, okay, the sim racing sector is growing on the right direction, and definitely, it's just the start of a long journey, I feel like, so definitely we'll have the last round, especially in the 24-hour spa, to improve and try to concentrate towards that round. And yeah, definitely, Lamborghini, GTWR with goal setups coming in, like all those things in my life are surely, improving it. And yeah, definitely, it's pretty emotional, like everything.
Thank you for your time, Georgia. Really appreciate the insight, and of course he'll be watching on as GTWR continues now into the quarterfinals. We'll bring back in Lewis and Luke, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we were chatting about before, and Lewis, about your expectations now after seeing those three heats.
I don't know, to be honest. Obviously, the last time I went racing, when we were on iRacing and there's IRO Falls, it built up, and that semi-final race still maintained one of the best races. Absolutely, no doubt, one of the best races that I've seen in sim racing. Absolutely incredible from start to finish. So much drama and intrigue, and so much entertainment from our point of view, which is obviously what we're here for. In this, I'm not so sure. Are we going to build up in the same way? Are we going to get a lot of the drama out the way in the quarterfinals, or is it going to kind of build to the final? Because that's one thing from Fuji that we all agreed on, and behind the scenes, that the final was a little bit flat. It was a little bit unexciting, just because of the nature of the racing and how dominant Apex were. I don't think that we're going to have quite as flat a final in this. I think with it being so open, with it being so wild between some of the teams and not really knowing which one's going to be at the top, I think we're open for a bit of a special final later on.
I would concur. I also think, I will say it right now, I think we're using all three of the finals. I don't think it's just going to take two of them. Race Control still has at least one incident to review, but I can tell you it is going to be tight between those looking to qualify It is, I think, at least tied right now provisionally. We'll get updates as soon as we can. Luke, as we look forward, though, past this ERL and indeed to 2023, I saw the question posed in our YouTube chat. What cars would you like us to be racing in as we look towards what next year might offer in this competition?
Oh, let's treat this like Luca's special show again then, shall we? Eh? Hey, Luca, it's the only person in the chat. This is all for you. You know what? I think the car choices have been absolutely superb, to be honest with you. So far, I think it's been some nice changes. Again, I think throwing things in like what we've done, what we could do, sorry, in 2 weeks' time with the Oval, I think that would be really, really cool. I think maybe we could sort of bring maybe Rallycross in or something.
Ooh, I like that.
It's a bit more difficult with 27 cars. But yeah, it's something that we can maybe look at in the future. But in terms of actual car choices, I just think there are so many options out there that are viable now. It just all depends on the imagination, really, of the organization.
Could do some stuff maybe with the pro trucks. Doesn't have to be on the off-road courses. You could take them to Long Beach or something like that and really go wild. Lewis, we could do some fun stuff. We are Esports Racing.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like I say, the sky's limit. We don't have to just stick to the traditional side of things of what we'd expect from the world of motorsport. Just because you can do it in motorsport doesn't mean that we have to do it like for like in the sim. That's what this competition is all about. It's all about experimentation. It's all about trying some random wacky stuff every now and then. And I kind of like the idea that to kind of agree with what Luke said, that the car selection that we've had has actually been really quite good because they've always been different. That's the important thing. On ACC, you kind of struggle a little bit with the difference just because of the content on the platform. I mean, like for the next one, you've really kind of got like the Super Trofeo, you can kind of go with that, or maybe some GT4s are the kind of the options that we've not really gone down. Fair enough, that's fair. On rFactor 2 and on iRacing, there is so many different car combinations that you can run that you can get a little bit spicy, a little bit leery, a little bit crazy with it. I'm not sure where I'd go. I'd need to sit down and literally flick through all of the bits of content and actually properly decide. But I mean, why not take everyone's been seeing those laps that have been posted around. I don't know what the dirt course is, but obviously in the Mercedes F1 car, try something a bit random and a bit wacky like that. Why not for one round?
I've got the best format ever. I've just come to my head, right? No. So, right, this is ace. This is incredible. So just bear with me. We do rally stages, right? So everybody does a rally stage at the start.
You just stole an idea.
Hold on, did I?
Were you going to say this?
Yes, no, because I've got something similar, but I think you'll like this, so I will jump in. Mount Washington, down the hill, limited fuel, send them all down at the same time.
See, now I've got a different idea. So that's a good idea, but everybody does a rally stage on their own. So it's like lone qualifying, if you like, for the heats. Then in the quarterfinals, it's exactly the same again. But then when you get to the semifinals, we have 8 teams, and it's a 1v1 rallycross.
Oh, wow.
So you have best of 3 races, 1v1 in teams. So you get one team go through to the semifinals, and then you get 6 cars left. 3 versus 3 in the final, best of 3 races. That'd be perfect. We'll be here for about a week, but I'm down for that.
We're just changing the format left, right, and centre. I'm loving
yeah,
it.
Florian sat there going, and I employ these people to ruin my format.
So here's a look at the format for this. What we've got right now, not any crazy ideas, and it was close. It was tied between Leo Racing and Ballas Esports, the combination that ran well at iRacing, and Rocket Simsport, who missed out by virtue of the better finishing position that Leo Racing / Ballas had in heat number 2. But we've got 2 tasty quarterfinals up for us, Lewis.
Yes, indeed. And, well, I think... I'm not sure what to expect from this, to be honest. I'm not sure who's going to be coming out on top. I'm not sure who's going to be taking the victory.
Give a shout out to Wild Things Racing, who made it through to the quarterfinals at their 2nd time of asking. So a good run of form for them. They'll be delighted with that one. Luke, from your perspective, what are we expecting in terms of potential shocks looking at those matchups?
Well, first of all, I want to say, Dan Lofts in the YouTube chat, we specifically talk about you before every broadcast and how we can wind you up. So great to see that you've been wound up. I'm expecting close racing, mate. I'm expecting it just to be the same as every single championship we've had so far. Redline looked good. Apex looked good. Unicorns of Love have not shown what they're capable of as of yet. Yaz Heat look very special, I would say, here as well. And Veloce, I don't think they've shown their complete hand as well. I think there's genuinely 7 or maybe even 8 teams that could go all the way and win this.
If we can bring that format graphic up again, I think we should really talk a little bit more about the 2nd quarterfinal, because we've been talking about how anyone could go through, I don't think we have seen a more stacked quarterfinal than that one, Lewis.
Yeah, that's rough. Obviously, I mean, to pick 3 between this, I don't even know where you'd begin. Team Medline with the most wins that we've had in the competition. You've got Apex Racing Team, one of their main rivals, and you've got GTWR, the last winners on the ACC platform. You've got Veloce Esports in there as well, and how strong they've been looking today and how much they need a victory. And then between all of that, you've got BS Competition, Arnage and Leah Racing by Barras. That is a nasty quarterfinal. I would not want to be in that at all.
Yeah, I was hoping someone would pick that up because, wow. There, I think, could be some shocks here. I mean, Apex have looked good with Bastion, but Gal Valero maybe a little less confident, a little bit more shaky. Could there be some shocks in that one? First quarterfinal should be very interesting as well. We're just getting ready. Drivers getting into the session and going together for the first time because, of course, Luke, slightly different feel to the races now because you're actually going to be able to coordinate and work with your teammates rather than watching them from the sidelines.
Yeah, that's again, the difference between the heats where everyone's going to be a little bit more timid, I would say, apart from the third race where a few drivers really have to make some moves. When it comes to this part, you kind of know midway through the race what you have to achieve, so people will indeed be pushing for those positions. Maybe they're out of position and they know they need to get one driver up, maybe 1 or 2 spots. So this is where you're going to see things go really, really frantic. And luckily, I'm not a part of this, so we're going to have Arjuna take you through this with Lewis. And I'm going to step aside and watch this show unfold. Have fun, lad.
Yes, indeed. Quarter-final time. This is going to be a bit of fun, Arjuna. You sat beside to watch the watch the heats. What are we expecting of this one? I mean, qualifying is underway. We get to see how this one unfolds. We get to see how our grid unfolds. I'm not sure who's going to get on top, but I think pole position is going to be very, very important.
Yeah, and I think the dynamic with teams is going to be so important here. Look how tight, even with this slightly smaller BMW M2 CS Racing Cup car, it's a tight track and it's a nasty place to be trying to fight 3 and 4 wide, which I think should expect on the run through those opening couple of corners. So being at the front for Gronewold will be important. Even though draft will play a factor in this qualifying, I think clean air is what you need right now.
Yeah, I've seen it before where teams try and overthink it. Drivers try and overthink it. They try and think that the slipstream is king. Sometimes it is not. We'll ride on board with Tobias Gronewold around this circuit. See what his kick is like out of the final corner. Getting that one right on the start lap is critical. It is not a long session. Down towards the first corner. Very tricky to pick out. Get all the way over to that wall. That was so close for Gronewold. Pick up a bit of the curb as well and then run it out wide. You tend to stick 2 wheels into that gravel ever so slightly, but if you do get a track warning from doing so, and obviously that would invalidate the lap time into the second corner, which leads into the third. Pick up that apex. You can run out a little bit wide here. It's not too big of a deal before we get down towards turn 4. And this one, Arjuna, is a big one. It's very important. It has that run all the way down towards the Klein chicane, down towards that all-important braking zone through such a high commitment part of the circuit.
Yeah, but this time you can't afford to get into the gravel because if you do, it checks you up and you're going to be side by side. And high curbs here means you will see drivers being aggressive and launching themselves over. Gronewold basically takes the curbs like they weren't even there. Then up over the crest and down in towards turn 7 and this tricky little chicane where it's about really setting up for the next set of corners. Hard onto the brakes, maximize the track once again. But look at how he'll sweep to the right and build onto the power and into what is then the other primary passing opportunity, the run into the very difficultly named turn 9.
Yeah, indeed. The hairpin, I'm not even going to give it a go. Don't you worry. Obviously, some of these corner names are way beyond me. But down into the hairpin either way. Out through the Jochen Rink box. It's kind of not really a corner. You go through it. It's a left-right. It's flat out. It's definitely not a corner. We will argue about that ad nauseum. And down towards the final chicane at Jackie X. Up and over the curb quite a bit here. The anti-cuts, they can kill your lap if you're not careful, especially in a car like this. It can unload the rear and take you for a bit of a spin. Maybe not the tidiest lap, but Tobias Gronewold will slap one onto the sheets with a 40.745. Obviously good enough to put him onto provisional pole, but who else is going to beat it?
And I think scruffy is not the worst thing in this car at times. Because it's lower power, you can get away with just ragging it out a little bit more. And with Boothby going to the top, he stopped the Unicorns of Love Party at the front. Blyer up to second. The ACC specialist starting to rise to the top.
Yeah, Mateusz Tuszkiewicz up to third position. We'll be catching up with Triton Racing a little bit later on, but second and third for them. Their teammate, Jakub Charkot, down in 10th at the moment, but not too big of a deal. They do really need that third car to be up there if you're going to make your progress along the way, but still, super lap time from George Boothby, by the way, to do a 140.5. Sarika picking up a little bit of slipstream, I believe, from Gianmarco Fiducci at the moment. It might be Sean Arnold, one of the Team Fortuna drivers, either way. Whilst it doesn't make that much of a difference, it's those tiny margins which might just make that change between starting 10th or starting 4th, for example.
Look at the margins inside the top 4, right? With the 10th between them, 3 hundredths between Muller and Boothby. So you're saying Boothby's got the great time, but really Muller, you know, maybe on the power half a millisecond earlier, he could be right up there as well. These are those fine margins, and with limited qualifying time, we enjoy this. It's not as stressful as the VCO Pro Sim that we had last year, let's not forget, where it was a 1-lap qualifying shootout, and that was it. This gives you a couple more opportunities. Gronewold looks good, though, as he sweeps through the final corner, coming to the line.
Yeah, second lap's normally a faster one on ACC, and it certainly looks like it could be the case. About 4 tenths up coming out of the final chicane. Tobias Gronewold does a 40.3 on his second lap time. We'll look backwards to the likes of Boothby, to the likes of Tuszkiewicz, to the likes of Muller as well, who got up into third position as well. Wanner getting up to 8th position. Dennis Schuniger in 7th, as some changes do happen within that top group. Dominic Blyer goes up in the second, half a tenth off of the pole time. It is all change inside the top 10. Lucas Muller trying to move his way even further up from 5th as Sarika's got to 3rd.
That's important for Williams as well, because I think we talked about the strength in quarterfinal 2, but this one has plenty of interesting storylines to be talking about as well. Muller will grab 3rd as well as he roars to the line, but it's do or die now in the qualifying session as the car mounts itself over the curb.
Yeah, that was a big send over that curb in the background. Like I say, you can get away with it in the race, but in qualifying, that will definitely invalidate your lap time. As we can see, Harry Phillips, that was a big slide from the Wild Things Racing car directly behind it, or rather, it was Harry Phillips, never mind. Getting a big slide coming through that second chicane. It's easy to do in a car that's got this little grip. And George Boothby is pushing. He's 4 tenths up at the moment, but he's just invalidated in the second chicane, and he is done for the session. 5th, as good as it's going to get.
It's so important. Like, we talk about how narrow this track is, but you want to maximize it in a momentum-based car, and so Boothby, 5th's the best that he'll start, but he'll watch with nerves now. 20 seconds left to go. The times will start to climb down. You just wonder who's figured out the most in terms of the tires and has got them in the window here right now.
Yeah, see who's going to improve in those final few sectors, those final few laps. Mateusz Tuszkiewicz losing out just a little bit on that run down from the hairpin down to the final corner. See what he could do. Triton Racing at the moment. Got Dominic Blyer up in 2nd position, who could definitely do with some help. Charcot down in 14th. What does Tuszkiewicz do? Out towards the line. He's going to be pushing it up there. Sean Arnold also improving directly behind us in 9th. But Tuszkiewicz gets up to 5th. Sean Arnold crosses the line. He stays in 9th. No improvement as he crosses it, as we head back to Tobias Gronewold, who is presently on the pole and doesn't look like he's going to get beaten just yet.
I wonder if Muller can improve, because I think he still potentially has the opportunity to do so, but it's winding down. Here comes the 3rd of the Koana Gaming machine. Samuel Ratz runs his way to the line to finish up his qualifying session. Marginal improvement, but only 21st for him. His teammates will have to do the hard work at the front of the field.
Yeah, those final lap times coming in. We've got Gronewold here as a 10th up coming out of T4. He's hovering around that kind of time at the moment. Once they're finished with these laps, the session will be done. See if there's going to be any further improvement. A 40.3. I'd say that pole time is pretty secure. It's only the likes of Dennis Schuniger that might do anything about it. Maybe Stutsenko, but I'm not so sure. For me, that lap time looks pretty on it, pretty solid. And he is looking for a pole position for Unicorns of Love right now as he comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, you don't really have to practice pit entry here. It's not really going to be a big issue in these short, frenetic races that we have. But what an interesting qualifying session. And as we bring our friend Luke Crane back into the picture, I mean, Luke, in terms of qualifying, as always, the margins at the front, oh so tight. The top 10 split by just over 3.5 tenths.
Yeah, I think the biggest story here is Malinowski's went in P18, right? He's right down the order, so nowhere to be seen. So Yassi, who've been probably one of the stronger teams today. Look at, again, Boothby's done relatively well here, but being in that mid pack is where things can go, really, really wrong. Unicorns of Love, we expect them to do very, very well, and realistically, they haven't really set the world alight so far, but they have done in the quarterfinals. So they're here, they're back. Unicorns of Love, their usual position right at the top end. I just think this race is going to be so interesting.
I still really want an Apex Racing team versus Unicorns of Love final. I'm just hoping it manifests itself out, Lewis. But I mean, I think we are going to now see some interesting stuff on the start, because some of the red line drivers have been complaining a bit about how things have been working out. It's all about maximizing what you're given.
Yeah, whilst we said this car's not typical for a lot of the ACC drivers, the way the start system works, all the ACC drivers are very accustomed to it. I think we're going to see some more drama on this one, Luke.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Well, you guys are going to take us through the action. I can't wait. I'm sitting back. I'm going to get myself a cup of tea. Enjoy it. It's time for the quarterfinals, race 1.
Drama, drama, drama. What can we get from this? Tobias Groneval will be starting it from pole position, with Dominic Blyer starting alongside in that front row. Muller, Sarika, Tushkovic, all of these drivers kind of spread out a lot from their teammates. That's what we like to see, isn't it, Arjuna? This is going to be an exciting one, I have no doubt.
I don't think my brain is going to be able to do the math fast enough on this one. So we are going to be struggling just as much as those watching to figure out what's going to go on here. Remember, three teams, advance into the semi-finals. We say goodbye to 4 of the teams after this.
Yeah, and this is where it's kind of high drama, whilst we'll wait for quarterfinal 2, which I have no idea who's going through on this one, in that one, because it's so stacked. This one, the weaker of the 2, yes, but still, picking out 3 from this, incredibly difficult.
I think Unicorns of Love, this is their playground, let's be fair. Koana Gaming have looked great, Triton are up there, but I mean, then what about Yas Heat? What about Williams? I mean, there are so many more players that you know where to place.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous, and that's what we love about the Esports Racing League. And of course, when it comes around the Esports Racing World Cup, it's so exciting. It's so open. As a driver, though, you've got to forget your team, haven't you? You've got to focus on what you're doing.
Yes, no, I think, but communicating is going to be important, right, as well, because we always talk about it. If you're the 3rd driver and you've got 2 in front of you that are safe, not being risky, and controlling their own destiny, you get yourself out of dodge, get out of the danger zone, and let the 2 drivers at the front battle it out.
Well, it's going to be Unicorns of Love versus Triton on the front row of the grid. Behind, you've got Koana Gaming and Williams Esports, who's going to be booking their way through to the semi-finals a bit later on this evening. We'll have to wait and see. Circuit Zolder, 12 minutes. It's an extra couple of laps than what we've seen in the heat races. This should be a thrilling, exciting one. Dominic Bly not with a great launch from 2nd position. A great one, though, for Tobias Groneval. Lucas Muller trying to defend in the background from Boothby as they head their way through the first corner. A little bit of a brush between 2nd and 3rd, but it's the whole shot for Tobias Groneval. It's going to be 4 wide, though, up towards the 2nd corner. A big send from Boothby to the inside, trying to get alongside Dominic Blyer as we head back towards Mateusz Tuskovic, heading through the background of shot. Donis Schoeniger trying to keep his car alongside with the Yasit machine as Sean Arnold. Wow, that's the bad luck that we've seen time and time again.
And there goes the move from Schoeniger down the inside, and then further contact behind him as he bullies his way forward. Aggressive at the front as they start. Great run from Gronevold. It's Muller feeling the pressure as Boothby tries to fight for Yasit into the chicane. They single file it out, though, for the moment, inside of the top 7.
Yeah, Boothby, though, with a much better launch as we head back to Stetsenko versus Tuskovic. We've seen this one before. Stetsenko's trying to get through. He's going to look to the inside coming into the 2nd chicane. He's got Sodakat directly behind, though, for Wild Things Racing. That cone goes... Oh, and there's been Boothby's round, and that's also Muller. He's been sent round in front of the entire field. It's chaos and carnage, and that is not what we wanted to see.
Yeah, a bit of arc breaks going on there, that's for sure. Son McCormack mixed up in that one of the best that ACC has to offer. My word, it started from 2nd. Everyone from there mixed up. Gronevold sails clear at the front of the field.
Yeah, that was bad. Obviously, we didn't catch the initial incident, but Boothby was around literally in front of everyone. And when it comes to that, it's a narrow circuit, it's tight around here, it's tight and twisty, and it was literally in front of everyone. So what's going to happen from that, what race control are going to have to deal with, we'll have to wait and see. Big kick of oversteer from Wana just ahead of all of this, trying to get something for Koana Gaming. Got Malinovsky, Charcot and Mlilnek directly behind, who's trying to get his way past the Triton Racing man of Charcot, who's got to the inside heading through that first corner, and it is the Unicorns of Love driver getting up at least one position in this. Brzezinski waiting in the background also.
Look how much damage is on the front of these cars. It is hilarious. We're going to grab a look at the replay first for what happened with Sean Arnold on the start. So you'll see inside of the top 15 was the Team Fordzilla driver, just commits, and I think he's going to pinch himself down on the Williams Esports, the 166. I think it's fair to say that Brzezinski couldn't have done too much about that.
No, there was a car there that can't really disappear, especially not on a race start like that. I've got to say, I like Sean Arnold a lot. That one's self-inflicted in my book.
You're just being careful because you've seen the muscles on that guy, and you don't want to be locked in a room with him.
Terrified. And also, I'm pretty sure Gianmarco Fiducci, his teammate, might also come after me a little bit. And I love myself better Gianmarco Fiducci. I'm terrified of the guy, though. So we'll have to wait and see, as we'll see Stetsenko battling with Fiducci himself. I don't know where this leaves us with the three teams that will be going through right now. It's completely open.
Yes and no. Unicorns, Triton looking good. Here, we'll get a replay of the chaos of Koana Gaming, and this is slightly different to what actually happened. So this is before we even got, so this was the contacts I was talking about into the chicane as Muller was defensive, as Boothby tried to look to the outside, and just look as he slightly overcommits, and well, from there, Boothby got the run.
Yeah, and it's that drag all the way up towards the second chicane. So you can kind of say that it's probably side by side between these two that's caused some part of this incident. Boothby's gone around the outside, coming through that fast corner, down towards the chicane. They remain side by side, Boothby with the position, and Muller's not alongside, leaves his nose in there, and you've got to say, Boothby also does light up the right foot to try and keep his car going right into the side of Muller, and just causes, well, it's pretty large calamity. Yeah,
it's clumsy basically up and down through the field. Let's be honest there. I'm not going to say it's on either one. You can say that Boothby, cleared himself, but he cleared himself by sending a lot more speed through the second part of the corner. Racing incident, I think, is likely my first inclination. But as we work through the evening, don't forget, race control will become a little bit harsher with penalties in terms of the impact it has on those that move forward.
Yeah, but they can be pretty severe at this point, pretty cutthroat on that. And I can see them, as much as we might say racing incident, but because it involves Tony Hubel, I can see them like giving penalties to both of them, points penalty-wise, because that's how it works on this. So yeah, I can kind of see it going that way as well. That is in the hands of race control, though, who can again view that from any angle they want. What it has done, in a sense, has spoiled the race a little bit, because it's thrown it completely up into the air, giving the top two a massive drive ahead. And these are the points where communication is critical, isn't it?
And yeah, sorry, to finish the point that I had before the replay, let's talk about the point situation, right?
Yeah.
Unicorns of Love, first and fourth, looking great. Triton, second and fifth, looking great as well. Then it starts to get more interesting because Moreno Sorica runs in third. He's not got much help right now. Brzezinski's in 13. Watch for Yas Heat with Boothby and Statsenko. 6 plus 7 works out to 13. 13 plus 2 equals 15. It's still close for that final transfer spot to the semis.
Yeah, it could be very important for Brzezinski to get on with this and try and help, and also for Sorica to hang on from Dennis Schuniger. As well as there's, I will say, Brzezinski's got a great job to try and get through all this, because they've all got damaged cars, so the opportunity is certainly there for him to get up to at least 9th spot, as there's been a big kick of oversteer from Maciej Mlinek as well. That was a massive moment. Charcot, who we're focused on with here, looking backwards towards Brzezinski, now forwards towards the Unicorns of Love man, as they head out of T4 down towards the chicane. That car is broken on the left. You can see the straight line speed. That kickoff wasn't quite as much, but by the time they get down there, Charcot lifts out, and I'd say wisely, nearly in the back of him.
Yeah, well, commentator's curse. I know you don't believe in it, but I'm placing the blame squarely on you. Now, Brzezinski is going to quite kindly say, thank you very much, I'll take the position, which is swinging it back towards Williams Esports. Now, watch this fight. Sorica has got to hold off Schoniger in his battle for third.
Yeah, wow. Like I say, what a dramatic race thus far. The top two have gone. And like I say, this is where the communication, Tuskovic needs to tell Dominic Blythe to be like, just don't fight, just don't go for it. We'll see message from Race Control, a 3 penalty point for Williams Esports. Now, that really does put it out of their control now.
I'm trying to think. So that would have been with Brzezinski. Okay, so that okay, fair enough. I can understand that penalty. Like I think you just said, though, it now means for Yassit 6th and 7th is probably going to be good enough.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with that, but again, we only saw it from one angle. I do feel Sean Arnold did cut across a little bit there, but either way, Brzezinski, the one receiving the penalty for that, and with it being 3 penalty points, again, we've said before, race control are a lot harsher at this point. They are absolutely on it with getting after it, and again, they can see it from all sorts of angles, so that'll be why. Brzezinski, either way, receiving a 3-point penalty for that, meaning that if he wants to get through, he needs to gain, I think, even up to 8th, really, if he wants to get through. And I'd say that might be just out of reach because of the gap between Malinovsky and Fiducci.
And with 4.5 odd minutes left to play,
yeah,
this car, it's not easy to pass. I mean, it's a momentum car, so you're waiting for mistakes to really set up the chances. So. I'd love to be the commentator that hypes things up. I just don't think it's feasible. As Yassit.
Oh, there we go. Back to it.
Yeah, so now we've got a fight on our hands once again because it's an even playing field between Williams and Yassit once more.
Yeah, Boothby getting the 3-point penalty there for the collision through the chicane. Yeah, so there we go. We were removing all hope for Williams to move through, and now we've added it straight back into the fight. Brzezinski back with a bit of a task on his hands. Got to get this position up now. Got to get to the outside of the hairpin. I'm not sure that's the wisest move, but it might be a mistake from Minek, and that should be the position made. Gets a big kick of oversteer, though, on the exit of the corner. Well, like I said, they don't have too much power, but they don't have grip to deal with it.
Yeah, this car is great. I love that we've taken lower power cars. First with the iRacing IR04, and now with this BMW M2 CS Racing Cup car. But we're changing things when we go to rFactor 2. Let's throw 900 horsepower at them. Brzezinski, a little bit of a slide as he caught a little bit too much of that curb on the inside through the final corner. And now you see the separation that's built between Malinovsky and Fiduci. 3 full seconds. So for Brzezinski, the best he really can hope for, like we were mentioning, is 9th.
Yeah, and these two cars ahead, again, both have significant damage on the front end. So there's a bit of a battle at hand that could ensue. And hey, Wanner and Malinovsky are not that far away. Maybe they'll open the door for an easy one for Brzezinski to get through. How experienced is Brzezinski in the world of sim racing? Again, whether it is on ACC, getting well into it with endurance racing alongside Dara McCormack all over the place in the esports world of ACC. But of course, Le Mans Virtual, the original Le Mans Virtual winner as well, was coming half a point shy of the championship last year, or earlier this year anyway. I mean, he's an incredible driver, but this is a hard task for him.
Yeah, no, and I think we always talk about adaptability, right? But adapting across sims is very different, I think, to adapting to different cars, because there are some that are great at it. There are some that can go front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive to hybrid all-wheel drive monsters. They can do it all, but a lot of other drivers, they need that muscle memory to kick in, so they need a certain amount of practice before they can get up to speed. And let's be real, unless you competed in the BMW M2 CS Racing Cup competition on rFactor 2 that you and I saw in BMW Sim Live at the end of last year, this is not a car that you're likely to have done any serious racing in.
No, I agree. I mean, I say there's a couple of. I mean, Brzezinski did do 1 or 2 rounds of that, but that's really it. It's not a car that ever really gets raced. That's why we kind of like seeing it in competitions like this, because it's an abnormality. It's something different. It's something we're not used to, and so we like seeing those be thrown out. There is a driver that will be pretty devastated, to be honest. Like every lap will feel like it takes about 15 minutes for Dara McCormack right now. He will be fuming behind that car.
To be fair, in these cars, it does actually feel like it takes 15 minutes.
It's because it takes about 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, but just look how much input you can get away with. It's such a different experience to some of the other platforms and some of the other cars that we've competed in. Even think about what we had with the V8 supercars and iRacing, Lewis, where it was very much about preserving the tires, not spooling up the rears as you got on the power, not burning the fronts too much as you got through the corners. And there's a big moment outside of the top 10 as they work through the chicane.
Brzezinski just got past Wanner there, and now Wanner's having to worry about the defensive move from Maciej Mlinek as well behind, as they're going to go side by side. Unicorns of Love on the outside, Kowana Gaming on the inside, dropping a position. An important one there for Kowana Gaming, and Brzezinski up another one. There is going to be one more lap after this, but Brzezinski to Malinovsky, 1.7 seconds. That is a big gap to one of ACC's best.
But I think Williams have got this right now. As it stands right now, Sarika in third, Brzezinski in 10th, 13 points. And let's just use the points because it cancels out with the penalty points, right? Then you look at Yacit, Boothby, Statsensko, 6 + 7, 13. Sarika's got the best finishing position. Penalty points are equal. 1 lap to go. Williams currently have a spot in the semi-finals.
If Sarika can hang on. Dennis Vinegar right over the rear end as they head through the first corner. It's not a long track. It's only 11 corners, debatably 10, but there is going to be a lot of pressure on Sarika's shoulders for that. We know how experienced he is, but still, that is a lot of pressure. And, you know, to say that that's the defining moment to move you through the competition, you need to hang on to that third spot.
Where is the opportunity going to come, though? Where does Sarika make the mistake? Groenewold so tidy through the chicane. You can tell that he is feeling confident. Has left Blyer in the dust, despite Blyer being able to work through that chaos on the opening laps and keep in the draft. So speaks to the confidence that Groenewold will take forward. But in towards the chicane at turn 7. Schoninger not close enough. Sarika should be able to hold on.
We'll say the races that we've had today, we've had quite a few dramatic ones. Williams Esports with another 3 penalty points. That'll be them out. Yazheat will potentially move through. The drama keeps building. Goodbye to Williams Esports. They're not coming back from that one. I've got to say, though, the races that we've had today, in most of them, particularly the last 2, and now this one, the winner has been a dominant winner. Will that continue on? Tobias Groenewold through the chicane, up towards the line. Unicorns of Love back on top. Groenewold with a victory for the first time this evening. He'll cross the line 3 seconds clear of Dominic Blyer, who's 3.5 seconds clear in turn ahead of Moreno, Sarika and Williams Esports. He'll do a great job to hang on, but unfortunately at the end of it, it's not going to be enough.
Unless somehow from somewhere there are more penalty points. What a roller coaster of emotion for some of those team managers behind the scenes as, well, Harry Phillips gets the rear end out to close out the day for his black and pink entry. What a first quarterfinal, and this is not the one that we expected drama in. We've still got the the quarterfinal of death still left to play, Lewis.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big one. I can't wait for that if that quarterfinal is anything to go by. But it all came down to that one that one bit of contact between 2 drivers, between Koana Gaming, between Yazheat, of course, Boothby and Lucas Muller. That was what basically decided the entire quarterfinal.
You say one bit of contact, but there were so many penalties that came out that they were all consequential in one way, shape, or form. I mean, Luke, when you were watching on, you saw the Boothby incident and then the aftermath of that one. I'm sure you must have been screaming and shouting like we were on the booth.
I was more disappointed, to be honest, than being excited about it. It's just, I don't know, when you're in those positions at the right at the sharp end of the grid, you don't need to be taking chances really there. You know, I think Muller was equally as at fault as Boothby was, to be completely honest. Boothby took, you know, he ran straight across the racing line where he didn't need to, realistically. He would have had the inside line for the next corner, and Muller just kept his nose in. Again, I think he anticipated being a little bit further along. I think you're spot on there, Arjuna. Boothby used the momentum of the car a little bit too much to sort of drive straight across the chicane, and that caught Muller out. Racing incident, again, penalty points have been awarded. I think it's what happened after that kind of was, you know, really the big problem, the big issue, because half the grid was taken out there and it just becomes a bit hard. Again, I feel sorry for you guys commentating because it kind of just kills the race from there on. But with the grid being as close as it is in terms of ability and talent, you're going to see things like that, unfortunately. There is, especially with this car, there is going to be some door rubbing. There is going to be some contact. People are going to be on the absolute edge. Everybody, realistically, will be on the absolute edge. So it's to be expected.
So I'm just looking at the points as they're coming in right now. There was an additional 3 points that have come down for Williams Esports. So they really were dinged for their actions during that race. Provisionally, Unicorns of Love, Triton Racing, and Yazheat, I think that was in line with Lewis and my expectations at the very end of that one. But we always say it, Lewis, it gets more physical as we work through the course of the evening.
I mean, I'd normally agree with that, but last week a few weeks ago, never mind, but last round, I'll say, did show us the further we went through, excluding the finals, when we got to that semi-final, it wasn't that elbows out, it wasn't that crazy. It was actually, it was just quality action from start to finish. I kind of hope that's how we go through this. Unfortunately, with how it is such a narrow circuit, when racing at Fuji, if there's someone that spins out ahead of you, well, you got like kilometers of road to use to get around it. Around here, coming out of that chicane, going into a pretty blind right-hander, where the crash happens, you're driving from cockpit, you're inside the car, you see the crash as you arrive into it. There's not really much you can do when you're like the 5th, 6th, 7th car. That's kind of just how those incidents go. I think we'll probably see 1 or 2 more of them. I just hope that they get out of the way in one race, and so we at least have a decent one to deal with between now and the final.
I get the distinct sense there is a decent amount more for race control to still work through. So we've got some time to talk about some other stuff. We talked about VCO Standard. We talked a little bit about what maybe 2023 will hold in store for this ERL, but let's talk about something that will get underway in just about 2 weeks' time now as the IMSA Esports Global Championship gets ready to head to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Now, of course, Petit Le Mans is this weekend, of course, with the weather system inbound. There's so much doubt and concern about, of course, what is going to happen. But at least for us, Luke, we can enjoy some virtual racing and later on this year, a preview of what will happen next year when IMSA heads to the Brickyard.
Yeah, it's complete opposite, really, of what we're doing here, isn't it? We've got very much an esports format, whereas with the IMSA stuff, it's much more, similar to what you'd see in the real world. And again, I think there's a massive space for both of these. Again, it's esports. We can do what the hell we want. It's really quite as simple as that. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a nice spectacle. I'm very envious of you two lads, to be fair, on this one, for sure. But I'm very much looking forward to watching.
Well, I think as much as we want to talk more about that, we are ready for the next of our quarterfinals, Luke.
Yeah, I'm off again, so hopefully this one's a little bit better for you in terms of cleanliness, but I'm sure there are going to be people trying to make up positions all the way through. Quarterfinal number 2, race 2. Here we go.
Well, after all of that, the drama builds, and it is Redline at the front. A lockout once again. Rietveld, Benito, Siggy in 4th, but Redline have struggled with the starts of this race. To be fair, considering how tight this grid is, I am surprised with where the teams are clumped right now, because they're all in the same bit of space. They're not spread out across the grid, Arjuna.
Yeah, no, and I think, to be fair for Redline, if you're struggling with the starts, it helps when you control both lines. So for Rietveld and Benito, I think this is probably the best situation they could have hoped for. So Redline, 3 cars inside the top 4, looks about as great as you can get for them. Behind them, watch for the Veloce guys. Pajic, you expect something from him. I think Apex have got to hope that Fluke and Valero, 8th and 9th, can work together and back each other up to hold people up behind so they can support Bastian Richter, who will look to fight amongst the sea of Redline.
Yeah, Bastian Richter really dragged the Apex Racing team through the last time I went racing in the Summer Cup on ACC. Don't get me wrong, like Jamie Fluke and Scar Valero, I think it was those two on the day. They did very, very well, but still, Bastian Richter is obviously their lead driver. He needs to do a lot of work in this race. He needs to pounce on the potential poor start, but surely, like, Redline are going to learn from those poor starts.
It's not much time to try stuff out, right? So you have what you have. How do you respond?
Let's see. Let's see if they're going to lose the lead on the race start. Let's see what's going to happen. Redline 1st, 2nd and 4th right now. They are in control in the second quarterfinal here in ERL Fall Cup Round 2. Let's see who's going to come out on top. Let's see who's booking their way through into the semis. Rietveld in charge at the moment. Bastian Richter, you can see how close he is. Redline have this one sorted, but it is a better start for Benito. Coming down towards the first corner, it's still going to be a Redline 1-2. Might be a Redline 1-2-3 as the inside line going much slower. Bastian Richter losing out. Kevin Siggy sweeping around the outside. It's Redline to the front, going 1st, 2nd and 3rd. What a super start.
And crucially, I think Gregor Schill went offensive on the start and pressured Fluke and Valero with at least one of those Apex cars going backwards. They're still side by side. Fluke having to compromise as they work through turn 4 and they run into the back straightaway as one of the Redline cars slow. Contact, chaos again, and it's clumsy once more. But what has happened to Kevin Siggy?
Yeah, this is bad. I'd actually say that's worse than the previous round. Our nice competition.
This is worse, yes, agree.
PS competition. That's a slam dunk pen. Nice one. Very, very messy indeed. What happened to Siggy? I will say, from what I was seeing, he was not a part of that incident at all. It was all happening whilst he was going. So maybe he had a technical issue of some description or something like that. I don't know. But wow, that was pretty poor, gotta say.
Yeah, no, poor I think is an understatement. You are usually the harsher one of the two of us, but yeah, that was not what you expect at this level, and I can, yeah, if Luke Crane did not enjoy what we saw in quarterfinal number 1, I can only imagine the rage coming from him. Jamie Fluke, Kyle Valero.
Yep.
Yes, Bastian Richter got caught up in the mess, but it might not matter for the Apex Racing team.
Well, to be fair, if there's 3 teams that are going through, first and second, Redline, third and fourth for Lockjay, fifth and sixth, Apex, done. Tick, sign that one off. But
stop the count.
I mean, there's still 10 minutes left. We're not trying to get ahead of ourselves with this race, but when you're because they're battling with your teammates, so you know what to do. Don't fight. There's no need.
I'll be a little bit more bold and say, and Tunes continues to struggle. You can probably stop the count right now because between 6th and 7th, there's about a 3 and a bit second. Yeah, that's a broken car.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. 3.5 second gap back from 6th. So it's kind of like in that sense, there isn't really anything that's going to change. It comes down to mistakes. And if there's one thing that we know about these drivers at this level, they don't really make mistakes, like not that much, not big ones. They happen. Yes, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, ERWC, and also there's a lot of mistakes. Fair enough, but at this level, when you're by yourself, it's completely unforced. Where do we begin?
So we're going to look at the entire start sequence, and we're going to start at the front. I think this is important because you said Siggy was not involved, but it's hard to not believe that him not going slow and being on the outside of the racing line did not impact to some degree what other drivers were doing. So let's get a better look out of here, Lewis.
Yeah, we'll see from up above. Obviously, the best place to see these kind of things. I don't think he was involved in it at all. I think he was just trying to get out of the way. Clearly, whatever issue he's had has been rectified, but we'll see him go slow around this point. Bastian Richter has to respond very quickly, by the way, because if he's going to go slow about now, I think he's going to go... there we go. Bastian Richter that spun him out. So there you go. That's why Kevin Siggy was going slow. So Bastian Richter actually started the cause of all that. I need to see that. And
all of that is, and I think all of that is just a chain reaction. So Siggy was not involved. However, I will still maintain that the cause of what happened to Siggy is the reason why we got the chain reaction there. And I have a feeling that it's not done just yet for the Apex Racing team sitting in 5th and 6th. Let's get the calculators out, because I think Leo Racing and Ballas Esport might be able to spoil the party if, as I expect, penalty points go the way of the Corby crew.
Oh yeah, that is a slam dunk penalty. I don't know what it is, because obviously, again,
a big one if you ask me.
Well, I mean, kind of, because you judge the penalty based on the incident itself. 3 penalty points. You judge the incident based on the penalty on the incident itself, not on the causality afterwards. And you can see just into the rear end. I mean, had the train not been right there, let's just see what Bastian Richter does. So he's kind of just in the middle, BS competition, just into the rear. I'd say from all of this point, the entire train is out of control, and it's basically who keeps the right foot down.
To be fair, there is less archer braking in this one than we had in quarterfinal 1. However, just the way that it played out with Richter being slower and all of that going on, it just ended up in a worse situation. So let's do the math very quickly. 5 plus 6 for Fluke and Valero in the Apex Racing cars means 11. Add 3 to their total as a result with the penalty points. They're now up to 14. 8 plus 9 equals 17. Apex are still in control, I think, as it runs right now. But we still got more than half this race left to go.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of time to discuss that incident ad nauseum. I think the thing is, for me, there's a couple of incidents post-incident, right, where people were driving off then into each other, where I'm kind of like, okay, that I do take a lot of issue with, because that is really bad.
But it was at the very end of the sequence, right? It wasn't we had the first bit of contact with the BS competition car getting turned around, and everything after that was incidental. It was always going to happen. Once people had the I don't think there was much archer braking. I genuinely think that compared to quarterfinal 1. This time, though, like you say, there was some stuff in the rollout of cars that had been involved in the incident that maybe was not worthy of the series.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know. Well, we'll see on that. On race control, I've got a lot to go through on that either way, and they will do. Kevin Siggy, though, picking up a position, at least putting on some form of show, getting past Nick Hoban and up inside the top 10, trying to pick up another couple of positions as Luke Whitehead's going to lose out. He's already lost out to Luciano Vitford, I believe, but he does have one of the Arnage competition cars directly behind. who I'm not sure is actually for position.
Luke is just talking about how we changed up the commentary schedule just before we went live, and how I put myself on these crazy races with all the chaos. And now I've just realized I'm also now going to be on the finals. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're in for that one.
Hopefully cleaner than the quarterfinals, because this has been a suboptimal experience.
Yes.
With less cars on circuit though, normally it can bring in the action just a little bit, seeing a 3v3 in that one. And also the semi-finals, I'm still hoping for a decent race now. We'll have to keep our fingers crossed on that if the racing continues as it is. At the moment though, Benito and Rietveld still holding on to the race lead. Eamon Murphy's closing in and dragging Pajic with him, but again, if I were Veloce, I'd be like, don't fight it, no need to. But sometimes you get a bit bored in a race, so you kind of think, actually, do you know what, why not? And then obviously Fluke and Valero behind. 3 penalty points to their shoulders. It's not going to make a massive impact yet, but if they get any more penalties, maybe.
It is good to have Veloce back. Don't forget we missed them for 2 of the rounds in the Summer Cup, and they were not bad last time out on iRacing. So I'm very glad that we see them came into this ranked 11th in the points for the ERWC qualifying. So basically locked in right now, given that they were about 30-something points clear of Patrick Long Esports. Yes, there is a chance, but with performances like this and just one more regular round to go before we have just 12 teams go to the Masters with a maximum of 12 points on the line, we very much are starting to see how next February in Germany will shake up for the ERWC.
Yeah, and I'm again curious to see when we get there, and obviously this is getting way ahead of ourselves.
It's not that far away. It's already,
no, it really isn't.
It's already almost October this year, Lewis. Think about that.
Yeah, but it's just what teams are going to move forward, what teams are going to be stronger in person, be stronger doing this, be stronger in a competition that's over a weekend rather than spread out over a championship. But you don't have time to respond the day to day. Not really, anyway. You've kind of got to be there and reacting constantly.
Look on board with Eamon Murphy. At least this time, his wheel is very much attached to the wheelbase. I don't think I've ever commentated on a funnier moment, Lewis, than BMW Sim Live last year, where Eamon Murphy was competing in, was it the BMW M4 GT4 car, and then coming through the village section at Silverstone, his wheel falls off, and you just had the camera shot of him looking at his wheel and going, what has just happened?
Yeah, obviously I think it just snapped on the drive. I can't remember, but yeah, it was.
No, I think he pulled the quick release because he was able to put it back on and keep driving.
Yeah, either way, I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. But it was, BMW M4, of course, back then on ACC. It was a nice, exciting race. Anyway, Niels Noax came out on top on that day, obviously driving for G2, and now he drives for BS Competition. But still, yeah, bit of a dramatic moment, regardless. But Eamon Murphy's well experienced in sim racing. He's had his fair share of dramatic moments. I'm pretty sure that's just another one to throw into the list of drama as we ride on board with Gar Valero on the rear end of his teammate. And again, there just won't be any fight between these two.
No, very much not. And, even with the penalty points, I think the math still does shake up nicely for them, so it's good. And I still think Apex will be feeling somewhat confident going into that semi-final with Fluke and a bit of mistake there from Fluke, nice. But, relatively, they're not showing that they're that far off the pace, and, the car that is very much not their preferred platform. And with Richter up their sleeve, you can always expect them to be up near the front.
But this is the thing, is that Richter's not up their sleeve in this race. Richter's 12th position after drama in from the race before. But it's still, Fluke and Valero have done what they're doing what they need to do, right? They're there, they're hovering around. If there is a mistake, whatever, they're coming through it. They're keeping their nose clean. They're keeping themselves ahead. It's why I've really enjoyed watching the Apex Racing team over the Summer Cup when they really moved forward, and seeing that continue in the fall. Because remember when we kind of was talking to them at ERWC, and they were not exactly best pleased about other platforms. Right, whereas I think now they've got used to it. I mean, at least from my angle, from an outsider, they seem to be enjoying it to some degree.
Look at this camera shot from inside the grill down low. Love it as we ride with Kevin Siggy. You'll note as well, he's got a couple of simulators behind him, so that red line facility starting to come together. Remember the first round of this ERL. Apex were dead last. What a transition and what a transformation it has been for them in this competition. And I think it's a testament to what we've seen from them in this year. Of course, 2 iRacing World Championship last year, yes, but beating Coanda at Daytona, where Coanda had never been beaten before in the iRacing Daytona 24. A year in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, where they and Kevin Ellis Jr. were fighting at the front, and Kevin then converting to the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports Great Britain champion. Apex seem to keep going from new heights to new heights, and I'm excited what next year might hold for them, as maybe we'll see more full-time efforts for them in other platforms.
Yeah, final corner, Enzo Benito is going to start his final lap of this race. The 4 of them are pretty close. It's going to be one of the least dominant victories that we've seen of the day, just based on how close this top 4 are right now, all trying to book their way through into the semi-finals. I'm not sure if this is the right quarterfinal to look into to see who's going to be looking strong for the semis, because I get the feeling, I don't know about you, Arjuna, that as soon as that incident happened, basically everyone in the kind of top 4, whatever, obviously I'm talking about turning it down from 100% to 99, but it's almost as if they've kind of come off a little bit. They've not gone so aggressive. They're not desperate for results because they already know that they're moving on if they hold up these positions. So I don't know what other teams, maybe from the quarterfinal 1, can actually read into the pace and results of what we're seeing right now.
I don't think there's much conclusions to be drawn, period, from anything we've seen so far. Heats, you send out 1 driver per team, so you don't have that team element of what's going on there, and it's hard to get a proper pace judge just because of how the races work out. Then we've had 2 quarterfinals where mayhem bedlam in the opening stages, and from there it is fair to say it's been somewhat of a procession. So I think we go into the semi-finals with plenty of unknowns, as Gregor Schill seems to be waiting to not have to do 1 more lap.
Yeah, and I almost don't blame him. You saw how damaged that car was. He has not enjoyed this race at all. Neither is BS Competition. Wow, Enzo Benito, Team Redline. They were 1-2-3 for a very brief moment. Bastian Richter said no thanks to that one, but still it's going to be a 1-2. Benito drags Rietveld out of the final corner to take victory here at Zolder. Murphy and Payich behind look to book their places through, as do Fluke and Valero. It looks like it's going to be Redline, Veloce, Apex heading through to the semi-finals.
This was the one that we didn't know what to expect, but it ended up being that by the time we had a minute and a half done, we knew exactly how it was going to end. Now, really, it's about how things play in the semi-final and if we can get through cleanly, because as we bring our colleague Luke Crane back in, 2 quarterfinals, Luke, of absolute mayhem.
Oh,
he's done it! He has finally done it and forgotten to unmute himself.
Well done, mate.
I think you guys have said it all. Like, quite literally, everything outside of the actual race. You mentioned everything. I'm surprised you weren't mentioning what films were on at the cinema at any point. I did mute myself. Anyway, moving swiftly on. That was horrendous, guys. I'm sorry. Like, again, it was such a small contact, such a small incident initially, and what happened after that was absolutely catastrophic there. And realistically, only 4 drivers were ever in that race because of that. And as much as I say it's the nature of the beast, it sometimes can happen. And normally with ACC, to be fair, if one small incident like that happens, it tends to go like that as well. It's kind of not something that I've not seen very often. It kind of happens quite often.
Lewis, I mean, let's look forward then to maybe some of the slightly more positive things. Out of the quarterfinals, Unicorns of Love, Triton Racing and Yassi, we know they're going through, and Team Redline, Veloce and Apex should go through as well. We still have a very interesting semi-final that should prove some tasty racing.
Yes, it's obviously, as we know, when we get to this point, it's 6 quality teams. We say that every time because despite whatever 6 it is, to get this far in a competition like this, you've got to be a quality team. It's not luck that drags you, not luck solely anyway, that drags you through to this point. You need skill, you need speed, you need the results, and you need a trio of quality drivers. And that's what happens when we get to this point. Normally, though, by this point, there are 1 or 2 teams that are really rising above, to what we'd expect. So we're kind of like, it'll be them 2, and it's just whoever else fighting for 3rd and maybe that random spot. In this one, though, I'm just really not sure. That qualifying from Redline is terrifying, the fact they got 1st, 2nd and 4th. But for everyone else, we know how strong Unicorns of Love are. We know how strong Apex are. Triton as well, don't count them out because, let's be honest, they've looked really, really strong. Dominic Blyers looked so fast today. I just don't know what two teams are really going to move their way through now.
And let's go to the point about qualifying. This is the platform, Luke, that Redline have not been able to win on, either in the ERWC or the ERL. That qualifying performance signals some intent that they're here to change that today.
Yeah, that's scary for everybody, isn't it? You know, if they can replicate that, if they can get a win on ACC, that means they've won on all the platforms, right? No other team's got even close to that. That is very, very scary indeed for everybody. I will say one thing. We were saying that Unicorns of Love, or I've been saying, shall I say, Unicorns of Love haven't really set the world alight throughout the competition, but they have looked quicker and quicker and quicker as the day's gone on. Obviously, Redline have just done the same there with their qualifying pace. I think you'd be very, very hard to bet against both of those teams making our final today.
Well, we had a chat with one of the team managers after the heat, so now I'm going to talk to one of the drivers who is getting ready to go into the semi-finals, so hopefully we won't keep him too long, but Lewis McLeod is joined by Mateusz Tichkowicz, excuse me for butchering that, from Triton Racing.
Yeah, Mateusz, hello. I mean, let's speak about the day at hand. For one, been looking quite good for Triton Racing now, moving on to the semi-finals. With it being such a narrow track out there, it's pretty scary. We've seen quite a lot of incidents. Talk us through how it's been on circuit.
Yes, it looked good for us today, but after the first hit, which I started, I thought it would go very bad because my pace was awful. But during the quarterfinals qualifier, I started to go faster. So we went pretty good with Dominic in the race. And we hope that we three will go good in the semi-final race.
Now, Triton have always been a bit of a big representer of Polish sim racing. We've seen this with quite a few other teams representing a nation. Do you feel added pressure being just a Polish-based team and kind of having to fly the flag for the country?
To be honest, I don't think so, because I personally don't look at nationality, and I've never thought about this, to be honest.
Well, we'll keep our focus on the day at hand then. Of course, you've got through to semi-finals before in the Esports Racing League. Is there stuff that you've learned from those experiences that might be able to push you through potentially even to a final today? Is that on the cards?
We dream about this because it would be perfect for us, but we know that it will be difficult. There are many very fast teams, especially Unicorns of Love and Team Redline. So we'll try our best to go through, but we know that it will be hard.
One final question before I let you go, because I know you're obviously quite busy. Esports Racing World Cup, the second one's on the horizon coming up in January. Knowing how you've been getting stronger and stronger, what are your aims for that competition?
For the win, of course.
Lovely. Well, we'll let you go. We'll let you run back. Thank you, Mateusz Tichkowicz, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Lovely, and good luck. Back to you, lads. I mean, always good to catch up with a couple of our drivers. Obviously had Simonini earlier being a team manager, but now getting Tichkowicz, a driver, in here. It sounds like it's been pretty stressful out there, if I'm perfectly honest. It's been a bit chaotic for the drivers as well.
Yeah, and there are some championships that have had a format like this. Look at some of the dirt championships on iRacing, but such a different concept in so many ways. And we always say it's esports racing rather than sim racing. We are doing things that we can only do in this world of esports. So I think Race Control have just now confirmed it is Team Redline, Veloce, and the Apex Racing team that go out of the quarterfinals. That's wonderful. My camera has decided to play up just as we were confirming quarterfinal 2 has been official, Lewis.
Yep, solid effort from Arjuna there. Well, no worries. Of course, Race Control have had a lot to deal with behind the scenes. Those 3 penalty points didn't really affect too much for the Apex Racing team. I'll try not to laugh. It's fine. There we go. This is much better. It's just
we don't need him. See ya.
He's gone now. He's gone. This is much better. I prefer this to be. I mean, that 3 penalty points, it was a bit silly for Bastian Richter, but I'm surprised that was the only penalty from that race.
I'm surprised that, like we're playing Wii bowling at one point. It was quite ridiculous, wasn't it? And you do need a little bit of luck to get through, but ironically, the 6 names we've got going through, as you mentioned earlier, Lewis, like there's no real surprises at this stage, is there? It's just, you know, anyone from maybe, I'd say we've got 20 teams here that would you would not be surprised with their name being in the final. And you know, the list was a lot shorter when we first started this. Don't get me wrong, I'd say maybe 12 teams you could be looking at, and just the depth of talent's become a little bit, you know, increased and got a little bit better. But yeah, it's just, every single time we get involved with this competition, we just don't know what to expect, but we're never really that surprised. And I think our tuner's back.
He's back.
He's just like, oh, I'm not going to earn a full wage now for being on camera. Get it back on. Get it back on.
I think one thing you can expect, we always say you can't script these ERL events, but you can expect at least one camera die blip from me at some point during an event. We are waiting. Yeah,
and
we're waiting.
mute my mic.
That is a prerequisite to be part of the VCO booth. We've all done it, don't worry. We are going to step aside for a couple of minutes as Race Control gets ready to go for just one semi-final as we whittle 6 down to 2. We'll be right back for the Fall Cup on VCO Esports. Hello everyone and welcome back to the world of VCO Esports. Unfortunately, Twitch still giving us issues, so just on YouTube for now. Do let us know where you're watching from and who you're rooting for. My name is Arjuna Kankipati along with Luke Crane and Lewis McLeod. Just a maximum of 4 races left. We get set for the semi-finals when we'll whittle 6 down to 2. It's been a fun evening so far, although a little bit clumsily of late. Let's have a quick look at the bracket, Luke, and talk about what is a very intriguing semi-finals.
Well, pick 2 out of 6 there. Unicorns of Love, of course, have already won an event, multiple events. Team Redline, probably the best team we've had in our history of this competition, short history, might I add. Triton Racing, who, again, are very similar to like Williams. They've just gone under the radar. Always seem to make an appearance. Veloce have won an event here. Apex Racing Team, multiple event winner. And Yaz Heat, they haven't won an event, I'm pretty sure, but they should have done. Like, I'm pretty surprised they haven't won an ACC one. I think this is the strongest semi-final we've ever had. And that's missing R8G. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and GTWR.
Yeah, as well. And Williams, like, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
The ERL has become so competitive, hasn't it? But yeah, I genuinely believe on the platform we're on, the car we're using, that's the strongest semi-final we've ever had.
It is going to be crazy. Props to Triton Racing as well, who have always shown some speed, not always had the luck. But I mean, Lewis, if you had to pick 2, if you had to throw some money down yourself, which direction are you even going in?
Well, I think Redline, based on that qualifying, just because of how strong they are. The second team, I'm going to go Yaz Heat. I think it'll be Redline Yaz Heat. That's where I'd head on this one.
So that's a look at the bracket. Of course, after this best of 3 finals will be up.
Ask anyone else?
I asked you. Luke already said what he was going to say. Who do you want me to ask?
There's no one else here, Lewis,
have you not
to give
said?
a prediction. No, that's not good. I'm not predicting.
My predictions are always wrong, but I tell you what, I'm going to step aside now because it is time to go for the semi-finals. I will give, it is going to be Team Redline versus, I think it's going to be Unicorns of Love. It's going to be a repeat of how we started the ERL back in the spring. It will be Luke and Lewis to talk you through our semi-final as we whittle 6 down to 2.
My prediction is it's going to be as much as Team Redline. Well, my prediction is, as much as Team Redline have been so good across this day, I don't think they're going to make the final here. I think it's UOL versus Yaz Heat. Sorry about that. I just cut over the stinger there. My bad. But here we are. We're in Zolder. It's semi-final time. The windmills are going off here. The wind turbines are going off. It's the Netherlands. So there are some windmills somewhere there or thereabouts. And, well, this is going to be interesting here. 6 will be whittled down to 2 before we have our best of 3 final. And, again, like I mentioned, it is probably the strongest semi-final we've ever had. Not sure if you agree on that, Lewis, but anything can happen. Anything will happen. It's going to be ridiculous.
I will agree on that. One thing I won't agree on is that it's in the Netherlands. It is in the Dutch part of Belgium, though. But
good point, well made.
You will irritate a lot of the Belgians there, which is fine. But yes, no, I think, based on what we had last time with the semi-finals, we can take a look at some of our drivers. With the semi-finals last time, I think that was ultra competitive. But yet on this platform, these teams, I don't think it gets much stronger than this. All I can say is that if I was on the grid, I can guarantee I would be solidly last.
Yep, and the reason why you'll be solid is because all your idols are in front of you. Anyway, there's the post-box camera as well of Jeffrey Rietveld. We love that version there. I think he should change his camera every single time, just to really spice things up. Again, for his fans out there that are paying a subscription to watch him live, it's a good thing for them. But yeah, I will say, you're right. I got the country wrong, but I'm just excited. I really genuinely am. I love all these cameras here. Look at everyone, all like resting their wheels, and then there's Kevin Siggy. It's just like, yeah, whatever. This is another day in the office.
Yeah, you can see, I think it's Malinovsky who's the one that races in VR, the only driver on the grid to race in VR, which is a choice. We'll say that. But as they get ready to go race, you can see Marco Pajic there, top left, out on track. I think he might well be one of the only ones, along with Malinovsky, one of the only ones that's actually out on track, getting those final couple of laps in. I like the focus there.
Yeah, the focus indeed. Now everyone, I think, is going through to the different session now. I do think Malinovsky should put googly eyes on his VR headset.
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
What's missing, really. That should add at least a comic value to the race. But this, again, will be super interesting. Yet to see what the actual grid is and to see how things are going to go down. Once we see that, we'll have a bit more of an idea as to how things are going to go down. But again, just looking at the differences here, you can see a couple of people, touching their faces, which is a sign of nerves. There's Kevin Siggy with that moustache. I'll be commentating on him next year when he actually races in the DTM trophy. Yeah, it's going to be good to see him around. Again, just a much more relaxed character over the last 12 months. Very, very serious still, of course, but over the last 12 months, he's become a little bit more relaxed, a lot more smiles and stuff. And well, here we go. It is semi-final time then, and Kevin Siggy, who is the most relaxed man out there, is on pole position with Enzo Benito, the most beautiful man in esports, in second position. Then Jules Boothby, who started the day as the quickest driver out there. Fact, currently in third position. Will not want to be getting involved in what happened in quarterfinals with the contact with Lucas Muller, but again, P3, good job. Then we've got Jamie Fluke then in fourth position with Grunewald then for Unicorns of Love in fifth position. The third of the red line cars then in sixth spot. We've then got Marco Pajic, the first of our Veloce cars, in seventh position. Then we've got Valero for Apex in eighth, followed by teammate Bastian Richter in ninth position. Tyskovic is in 10th then for Triton. And then we've got Eamon Murphy, who again was very quick at the start of the day and will be very unhappy with P11. Starts in P11. Then on 12th position, it is indeed Blyer. Then you've got Schuniger for Unicorns of Love. Malinovsky for Yaz Heat. Following him, a teammate in Statsenko. Then we've got Jacob Sharkot for Triton. And then we've got Minek down in P17, which is a massive surprise here that one of the Unicorns of Love team are down in 17th.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. Mike is not the strongest on this platform. Again, more of an ACC, more of a rFactor 2 and iRacing specialist driver. So this is a bit different. I've seen him use it before. Curious to see which ones are going through. Right now, it's Redline. Sure, that's fine. But I still think that battle over the second spot is going to be very hard fought, and that's if they don't trip over themselves. Again, the race starts have been a bit of an issue. They had the last one sorted, but will they do it twice in a row?
Well, just to explain to anybody new to this, how people will go through to the final, it'll be the top two teams that go through. Only your top two drivers' points count. Any penalty points that your team indeed do accrue will be added to your top two drivers' points as well. And basically, it's 1 point for P1, 2 points for P2, all the way down to 17 points for P17. The lowest points from your two top drivers will indeed be how many points you get for this round. So right now, it is indeed Kevin Siggy and Benito on the front row, the two Team Redline drivers. Then it's Boothby and Fluke in your second row. It's a semi-finals time here. It will be 6 down to 2 before we have a best-of-3 final here at Zolder. We're about to go green light racing. Then across the line we go, waiting for those green lights to appear, and they will go straight across the track. There's the green flags, and as you can see, it will be a roadblock from Redline. They're so used to doing this, but it's a phenomenal start by Boothby, trying to get involved and mix it with the Redline drivers, then has to get on the brakes very, very hard. And I think you'll find here that potentially Enzo Benito might be making a move for the lead then, as they run then through turn number 2. Boothby has split the two Redline drivers. Great start from him. Bit of contact then with Kevin Siggy. So Benito is up into the lead of this, and wow, you can see Jamie Fluke here through turn 3, onto the back straight, maybe trying to make a charge as well.
Yeah, Redline look like they're struggling at the start of the race once again. This time though, Siggy does get through T4 all right without being attacked by an Apex Racing team car from behind. And by that I meant Rietveld as well, who we're on board with right now. Looking at Grunewald, the attack, you can see that Siggy out of line just a touch, trying to keep Jamie Fluke at bay, whilst Guile Valero going side by side with Mateusz Tyskovic. He's going to lose out a lot here though, because he's going to lose his own Schuniger as well.
Yeah, he is, absolutely. Tyskovic there is going to maybe, well, he's definitely going to have a warning there for cutting the track, I'm sure. But Schuniger is going to try and come through as well. And as you can see, there's no way that 3 can go through there into 1. Valero's just had to slow down through there. He's going to lose a 3rd position for his troubles here as well. I think Sharkot's going to come through as well here. Not a good start as well. Milniak, but he's jumped up a few positions here. So he's effectively, well, no, he's still in 17th actually. He might be down in 17th. It's Schuniger that's a little bit further up the order. As we go a bit further up, Grunewald then forcing moves. He has to. If he wants to get that Unicorns of Love team through to the final, he has to make moves, but ultimately he is having a hell of an old ding-dong with Jamie Fluke, and now defending from Jeffrey Rietveld. Rietveld doesn't really need to get involved in this though, Lewis, does he? Because the front 2 of his team are currently in 1st and indeed 3rd.
No, might want to try and slow down this pack just a little bit. I'm not sure what the other team is at the moment, because of course you've got Boothby there in 2nd, but his closest teammate is Mikhail Statsenko, who's down in 10th. The Veloce team do have Pajic up there, but Eamon Murphy's down in 9th. It's kind of a little bit more messy with that one. I think Apex Racing team might actually be in position with a 4th and an 8th. Jamie Fluke and Bastian Richter, although actually as I say that, it would be Yaz Heat, because 2nd is higher than 4th, and they'd both be on 12 points at this point. So at the moment it would be Yaz Heat moving through with Team Redline.
Yeah, and Redline are in a position here where they can absolutely have a huge effect on this. Someone like Siggy could drop a position to give, if he feels like they could beat Apex easier than they could beat Yaz Heat, then they're probably able to drop positions. That's kind of how in control of this race they are right now. As we see some side-by-side action there between Apex and I think Veloce, and I think then Yaz Heat are going to come through here as well. So Statsenko is going to, or is it Malinovsky? I think Malinovsky may be looking to make some charge through here from Bastian Richter. Eamon Murphy's still in behind this. But yeah, as we come through then the second chicane, there was Arjibaji through the first, and there's Arjibaji through the second as well. Eamon Murphy just sat there chilling, just thinking, look, I want this to open up here, but I cannot take too many chances. I do not want to lose points or even gain penalty points for my team.
That was 2 positions gained, though, from Stetsenko. A slow exit from Bastian Richter. Eamon Murphy trying to find his way through Veloce, gets to the outside whilst a defensive move is put on by Bastian Richter. But a super effort from Stetsenko to pick up 2 positions for Yaz Heat, going from 10th up to 8th. Again, looking like they're going to be on the charge to try and get their way to the final. And then he's also got his teammate Malinovsky not too far behind. Eamon Murphy's going to try and get through on Fluke.
Yeah, it's like the fastest formation lap in the world right now as well. Eamon Murphy did not leave any room there whatsoever, did he? As Eamon Murphy is going to move up. Bastian Richter now drops down to 9th position, so this is not looking overly great now for Apex, looking a little bit better now for, indeed, teams like Yaz Heat. Yaz Heat are going to gain some spots here as well. But again, the team that's not really going to be too worried about this is Redline. Redline doing a sensational job as it stands.
Yeah, super stuff. We'll see if there's going to be any positions made up by Dennis Schoeniger whilst his teammates are sat up there in 5th position. He needs to get on it. We were saying Unicorns love this. They're one of the strongest teams on this platform. They were the form team as Groneveld's already trying to get up a position to the inside of Fluke, coming into 4. Wide run from Fluke. He might lose 1 position, might lose 2 positions as well, because Rietveld also might come through, courtesy of that poor run out onto this back stretch. And hey, look who else might come through. Marco Payet for Veloce also there, as he's going to go 3 wide out of the chicane. My goodness, that is close.
Yeah, an absolute freebie there for Grunewald. He's also been able to gap the group behind him as well. But ultimately, you could see that Statsenko was trying to get through. Payet was having absolutely none of it there. Very, very nice racing from all. Rietveld gains himself a spot as well. Redline, 3 out of the top 5 positions. Grunewald holding on to that top 4. And really looking for Schoeniger to gain some spots here. So we need Schoeniger to really go up the order. He needs to get at least ahead of Statsenko, and Grunewald's got to make some inroads on Siggy. But Siggy now nearly, 1.4 seconds ahead? Very difficult here. Unicorns of Love, who have been so dominant on ACC, looking like this might be one race too many for them today.
Yeah, which is kind of what we saw the last time I went racing on ACC. I said it before, they were one of the teams that kind of didn't put on the greatest performance, as Dominic Blyer, I think, had a couple of issues with. Guile Valero as well. Well, could this be very important as well for the Apex Racing team? Not up there, of course, with Bastian Richter and Jamie Fluke, but still, it could be a costly issue for the Apex Racing team.
Yeah, 100% there. Off to the back of the grid we will go then. I'm just seeing a comment there from Alaric Enslin saying we need more top-end ACC stuff in these cars. Absolutely, 100% agree. I have no idea why this car never really took off in terms of esports events, and you know, we're seeing exactly why these should be used more often, producing some incredible racing here. And really, you're just on the complete limit of the car. You're not being helped by anything other than your own driving ability with these cars. These are basically road cars. So you've got no downforce really to work with. So it's all about just, you know, trying to find the best of the car without putting it into a wall. It's really as simple as that. Up the front then, you can see the Benito about half a second ahead of Boothby. Kevin Siggy then is in 3rd. So right now, Redline will be on 4 points. We're looking at Yaz Heat 2nd with 2 points. And then their next driver is Statsenko, I believe. So that would be 10 points. And then you've got Grunewald, who's on 4 right now, and then Schoeniger. So that would be 14. So Schoeniger needs to gain 4 positions, but then we'll go and count back. So here's a replay here. I'll let you take this on, Lewis.
Yeah, we'll see what happened to Guile Valero, who I believe is just going to get tapped a touch. He's at the rear end, and it's as Blyer has a little bit of a half spin off the corner, too much power. And unfortunately, Guile Valero is in the wrong place at the wrong time and has to foot the bill for it.
Yeah, it's not really much Blyer could do there. Well, not put the power down, I guess, as ferociously as he did. It's one of those, it's kind of more of a racing incident, but it is a driver error at the same time. But the 3 wide didn't help in front. So you've got a 3 wide, then 2 wide, and it's kind of like you're thinking, well, so he's trying to avoid his teammate, actually. So he's basically thinking his teammate's going to drive across the circuit to the right-hand side, and then just puts the power down whilst also inputting to turn right. And ultimately, Valero then was indeed toggled up there. And I'm looking at a second replay, by the way, via YouTube there to see that. The first time I didn't quite catch exactly what went on. So I'm cheating the tactics a little bit. Yeah, for sure. Eamon Murphy. No, unfortunately not. Yeah, what a beautiful woman she is, or was. I don't know, maybe she still is. Who knows? I bet she didn't see it coming if it did happen anyway. So, as you can see, Eamon Murphy, P8 then, as it stands, ahead of Statsenko. Just up ahead, though, looks like Parker Pajic might be having a little nibble here on Jamie Fluke. As we then have a look in, no, not quite close enough again. So Fluke again is very difficult to overtake, right? One of the nicest men in, as Arjuna likes to say, in the world of esports or in the world of sim racing. But on the race circuit, an absolute animal. Try and get an overtake done on him easily.
Yeah, he is, again, ruthless with defence, ruthless on attack as well. That's why we've seen him go so well in this competition. But also with that move from Eamon Murphy getting past Senko, it does drop Yazheat back a point. So they're now on 11 and into the clutches, potentially, of Dennis Schoeniger. If Schoeniger can close up and Tobias Grunewald hangs on the 4th position, then there could be a switch, and we might well see Unicorns of Love go through into the finals as well. That one's going to be a little bit tight. We'll have to see how that one unfolds. As far as my math is at the moment, there's a big send from Pajic.
Yeah, Pajic is absolutely centred there, and he's taken Jamie Fluke out, and that is a stonewall penalty. That is a case of just give the positions back now, or you're definitely going to get a penalty if you don't. It's kind of not ideal here, but Schoeniger is actually going to love this, as there's a massive send here on, wow, Yazheat on Veloce. No. So the sister and brother team, or brother and sister team, whatever you want to call it here, having contact with each other. Pajic then has just been knocked off the circuit himself. And again, you said it was very unlikely, but all of a sudden Schoeniger is right onto the back of his pack. Yeah,
whilst Senko has picked up a couple of positions, I mean, as much as, you know, like you say, they're teams that run under the same umbrella, being Yazheat and Veloce. But when it comes to race control, I don't really care. A penalty is a penalty. So in that sense, is that a potential penalty? It was, was that like, again, these are all the things that race control will need to look over, and that could decide who is going through into our final. And like you say, as positions to be picked up by Dennis Schoeniger on the rear end. We'll see how Pajic got involved in that incident, and we'll see that unfold. Obviously, massive dive down the inside of Jamie Fluke. Let's see how big it is all the way down there. And no.
Yeah, not much other than that was a Pajic fault for sure. And again, Pajic. Oh, well, we're about to see the next part here as well. We've got our producer here, very excited. And he's going, keep watching. There's something else going to happen here. As we see, all three. No. That is a strike if ever I've seen one. So yeah, unfortunate there for them all. And Pajic is actually one of the cleanest drivers you'll ever see in sim racing. So that is just a genuine mistake. It happens. You're always going to be over the limit. Bastian Richter now off the circuit as well here.
Gone. Apex are done. That's it, because he was the second highest driver.
Yeah, 100% done then for the Apex team. Well, saying that, there could be loads more things happening. Schoeniger now has got himself a penalty point as well. So yeah, it's all but done for Apex now, and maybe even Unicorns of Love with that one penalty point given to Schoeniger. But although we think Veloce and Yazheat are probably going to get penalty points as well. So who knows what's going to happen.
No, this is where we need our lovely assistant in Arjuna to do some maths behind the scenes, because this is going to be very tricky to follow. Exactly, Bastian Richter just sent around by Triton. Yeah, that is an F.
Yeah, I'm sure Triton will not be receiving any Christmas cards from Team Apex Racing.
No, that one's...
Apex Racing Team, I just mixed their words up there.
You obviously didn't go to Corby to go and see around their sim centre on Sunday, which was open to the public. You go around and have a look and have a chat with some of the drivers.
Well, I'm sorry, Lewis, but I was at the Red Bull Ring.
That's all right. I was at Silverstone, so that's fine. Don't worry, I didn't go either.
All right.
I want a private tour.
I like the fact that you're flexing about it, and then I'm sure that Arjuna's going to get a private tour. With the lads always ringing him early in the morning. Yeah.
Is that what happened?
He's got some weird... Yeah, he said it in the last broadcast, didn't he? He's like, Kevin Anders Jr. rang me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we had a lovely little conversation. Yeah, we're talking about our favourite wines and favourite salads as well. Yeah, right. Oh, I think Arjuna is basically sponsored by Apex Racing Team now.
Is that a normal thing to be paired with, talking about your favourite wine and then instantly followed by your favourite salad? Is that...
I may or may not be making up some of those details.
Okay, no worries. Just making sure. Either way, we'll focus our attention back onto the race. So we're going to head on to one final lap at the moment on board with Dennis Schoeniger. I always say never trust the commentator's maths, and that's why you rely on other people to do it, and trying to keep an eye on all sorts of things behind the scene. At the moment, it should be Yazheat going through with red line.
Yeah, 100%. So almost like a 6-point swing would need to happen on this final lap. We've got Schoeniger here, who has got that one penalty point as well, down in P10. Bit of a disappointing day for Unicorns. I think a bit of a disappointing Fall Cup, to be honest. They've kind of, the first time they won a championship, they really doubled down on ACC and improved their roster. And then they've gone and had a nice partnership with Apex. Apex have got a partnership with UOL, like it works both ways. And just at this stage, not really quite working out, unfortunately. It's working out for Apex, that's for sure, but not really the other way round. But they'll come back stronger for sure. But yeah, the next time out, we're in the stock cars, aren't we, in rFactor 2? And I'm sure that's going to be the hardest challenge out of all of them. And they're probably going to be the least one they would have been targeting for a decent result. Enzo Benito, again, we're seeing a leader of a race just driving away. I think the way that you're sat up in these cars makes it so difficult to follow anybody, especially if it's a leader, because they could just hit their breaking points so easily. So I think that the nature of these cars, really, just your seating position, is a bit of an issue here. As we see a potential Veloce Esports with 3 penalty points as well. So that makes it now a 9-point swing here for them to overturn Yas Heat's deficit. So Yas Heat, or even more so, guaranteed to go through here. As we head then round the final few corners, Enzo Benito, the most beautiful man in sim racing. That is a fact. No one can take that away from him. Is now about to come across the line. Also very cool, calm and collected. You won't see much emotion from him. Comes through that final chicane, bumps over the curbs with a number 69 on the side of the car. Nice. We'll take victory here, Azolda, and safe passage for Redline through to our final today. George Boothby, who's been very good all day today, picks up a P2 and will spearhead Yas Heat towards their final as well. And Kevin Siggy backing up then Enzo Benito with a P3. Grunewald then, the leader of the Unicorns of Love team. It's not going to be enough for them today, unfortunately. Then Rietveld for Apex will be in 5th. Eamon Murphy in 6th then for what will be Veloce, but it does belong today to Redline, making their way safely through to the final with indeed, and it's just completely escaped me, but Yas Heat will join them. There we go.
We think.
We think, yes. Race Control still probably has something to say about some incidents out there. We can confirm, though, it will be... What? We've only had one final without Redline. It seems almost inevitable at this point, Luke, that no matter what platform, Redline will be up there in the fight.
Like I said earlier on, and well, I'll say one thing, we can confirm that we can't confirm anything. But yeah, Redline is always the sort of dark horses when it comes to ACC, right? Them, Apex, and RHG, who are very disappointing today, if we're going to be completely honest, as every single sim has their specialist. ACC has its very unique specialist in terms of the Veloce, Yas Heat, Unicorns of Love, and the GTWR. But you have to always factor in those other 3 teams for me, and Redline being right at the forefront of that. They have been superb today, and, you know, when you see Team Redline at the front of any competition, it's not really a surprise, but I genuinely think on this sim, with the amount of talent we have, it is a huge surprise, but they've just come firing today.
Adding to the number of wins that they had, they've had 23 wins in ERL races. Of course, coming into today, the next highest is 13 with the Apex Racing team. Incredible. Incredible stuff. Lewis, though, as we look forward now to the best of 3 finals, if it is Yas Heat going up against Team Redline, the pace that we've seen from Redline in the quarterfinals and now the semi-finals, I think, is looking quite ominous. Yeah,
they are very, very strong, of course, but then it comes against the experience of Yas Heat on this platform. Again, it's a car, I've said before, time and time again, it's a car they're not normally used to racing, fair enough, but Yas Heat have a lot of experience on this platform, and even if the pace is not there, we've said it every time we do these competitions, the quarterfinals and the semifinals are very, very different to what we find when we get into the finals, when it's 1v1, you know, or team v team, 3v3, in a sense. Very different style of racing, and that's kind of one where I think Yas Heat might actually look a lot stronger, but we'll have to wait and see.
More penalty points coming down from Race Control, so I think we can probably confidently say Redline and Yas Heat, but it's more about the order behind them and a little bit of prize money and, of course, seeding as we look forward to the ERWC. So now we've got a kind of pause before the storm, because I have no doubt that we are going to be in for something, because you talk about how difficult it is to follow at the front of these fields, Luke, and it does seem as though it's the bumper to get the moves done.
Yeah, qualifying is key in this. It's so difficult to find an overtake. We're seeing people take chances to make overtakes, but then there's contact. People end up flying off towards Spa. They're that far away off the track. And yeah, it is really all about trying to get that good qualifying, which makes it so interesting in our final, because not only do we have a qualifying session for race 1, but our top 4 in race 1 get reversed. So that's how we form the qualifying grid. So tactics are going to be huge in race 1. You know, Redline have been exceptional at not only getting results when it comes to the finals, but how they masterfully get that grid position for race number 2 as well. And that's why sometimes we just don't need the 3 races.
Yeah, we started off needing the 3 races almost every single time, but it's kind of settled into a rhythm now where race control does tend to get involved, but also we only need the 2 of the 3 races. Lewis, we'll look forward again very quickly. 2 weeks from today, when we return to this Fall Cup, we head to rFactor 2 in that stock car 2018 with 900 odd horsepower or something like that. When we talk about the tracks, let's put aside the ovals for a couple of moments. What are some of the road courses that maybe we could expect in terms of putting some fun racing out for us to see?
I mean, I want to go full wacko on it and go to some circuits which there are a couple of circuits on there that you've never really heard of, but almost always kind of produce some actually pretty good racing, because there's one of them that I'm kind of thinking of right now that is fictional, but it is actually very good. And I don't know, I know the fictional track is always like a bit of an arduous task with some people in sim racing, but it's a good one. It's called Loch Drummond, and it is mad. It's kind of like something like that. I'd like to see something like that. If not, yeah, a bit more of a left field option. There's plenty of them on there, stuff that you can kind of attack. If not, maybe just going somewhere like Spa in a car like that is just, it would be ridiculous. Imagine what Eau Rouge would be like in a stock car. Like, just put those things together. That does not seem like it's an easy 2 and 2. I'm kind of excited to see that kind of stuff.
Luke, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong, really, can you, with a classic Spa, Monza, those kind of tracks, really. I think just scrape it back to the bare bones, and everyone watching knows what they're in for the track. So I would go for something like Spa or Monza.
So here's confirmation. It is Redline versus Yassit in the best of 3 final. It's going to be fun as we get ready to break out the BMW M2 CS Racing Cup for the final time in this 2022 Esports Racing League. That's coming up next. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with the finals in this Fall Cup.
there we are, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the finals. Two teams battling it out for all of the money, all of the glory, and all of the fame. This should be good. This should be good. I'm joined by Arjuna Kankipati. How you doing, mate?
Hoping.
Did I get your name right this time?
You did. Don't worry. There's a low bar there, especially when I can't say it correctly. But I don't know what we're in for right now. It's one of those nervy moments where, yes, Assetto Corsa Competizione, you expect to see them at the front. But Redline have shown up on ACC just in a totally different mindset today than anything we've seen from them in 2022. 3/10 between Siggy and Boothby in qualifying right now, but we still wait for Benito and Rietveld to put times on the board.
Yeah, you look at these drivers for Redline. If this was January this year, you probably think, yeah, do you know what? Your lack of laps on this game is a problem. We are now, what, September, nearly October? We've had 3 different championships. We have the ERWC as well on ACC, with a leg of it on the ACC. We've had a Masters on this, so they've put in a fair amount of laps to get used to the physics on this. So I think if there's ever a chance to beat a team like Yaz Heat, today's the day. They've showed within qualifying they are the team realistically to beat. I think really on, and I should be saying Malinowski realistically, but it's on Boothby for me. If George Boothby turns up, he could drag Yaz Heat to victory.
Agree. I think we've seen that over the course of the day as well. He seems to be the most comfortable in the car of the 3. And as now we get Rietveld to the top in front of Siggy, that's the top 4 invert that maybe will be what Yasid are hoping to try and at least extend to a 3rd race in these finals, because it's not trending well for them right now. It is Redline 1, 2, and 3 with all drivers with times on the board.
Yeah, and it's Rietveld, isn't it? Again, the guy that many a time we've been guilty of saying the slowest driver out of these 3, and then just pops in when it comes to the semis and when it comes to the final. He is the big time player. He's the big game player, right? When you need a performance, Rietveld is always there to deliver. So it's quite appropriate that he's got a camera for a post box right now. But yeah, Rietveld, 900th of a second clear of Kevin Siggy, Benito in 3rd. You give them a 1, 2, 3 here at the start of a race, there is 0 chance of Yaz Heat winning. It's as simple as that. They are so good tactically. Their experience levels in sim racing, tactically, what they've all achieved in sim racing outweighs what Yaz Heat have done. What Yaz Heat have is they are the specialists on this game. So yeah, qualifying right now, if you get a 1, 2, 3, it becomes very difficult for any team to overturn that deficit.
Let's turn back to the incident we saw between Kevin Siggy and Bastian Richter in the quarterfinals at the start of this race. Just because I want to bring up one of the challenges no matter what circuit you're at when it comes to racing drivers, and that's finding reference points. The run in towards turn 4 is very tricky because on the left-hand side there's this wide expanse where there aren't too many features which you can use as references, and so Richter has just apologized to Kevin Siggy within the virtual paddock and said, sorry, I was using some of the service roads, as Boothby goes to the top 8 thousandths.
That's the difference maker there. If Boothby turns up as Rietveld's about to come across the line here, is there any improvement? No, there is not. So that was what it's all about. If Boothby can show up here, if he can get himself at the front, he could be the kicker for Yaz Heat, but he needs one of his teammates to indeed step up as well, albeit there's only half a second between everybody here. But Malinowski, again, you'd expect him to be right up in amongst it, and he just isn't quite there, although he is still on a flying lap, I believe. So Malinowski might still have something to say about this qualifying session, and maybe even go. Well, no, I've just been told it is indeed over here. George Boothby, he did turn up, he has performed, he has gone out at the front, but he needs one of his drivers of Statsenko or Malinowski to at least get up into P4. But first job done then for Yaz Heat, but Redline, they still look so strong.
Yeah, I wonder if that's momentary elation for Yassi. At least for Boothby, it will be confirmation of the speed that we know he's got to carry it forward from, GT3 cars, where we're maybe more used to seeing him into this very different momentum-based M2 CS Racing Cup machine. Definitely helps when you're up against the best of the best and you can find ways to go faster. And we heard that he was trending up on this qualifying lap. We'll see if he elects to finish it or pulls onto pit lane.
Well, just as well finish it, right? It's all about momentum there. You chuck yourself into the pits now, which he is not going to do. You kind of lose that ability to think, do you know what, I can keep going faster, I'm in the best form I've been in all day. And as we go across the line here, George Boothby, who's currently 8 thousandths clear of Jeffrey Rietveld, is not going to go any faster there. So, yeah, it was a very interesting session. And as I said, George Boothby had to turn up here because he's been the fastest out of all 3 of the team from Yaz Heat. And, well, he did turn up there. He has got pole position. But Team Redline are 2nd, 3rd, and indeed 4th. Oh, this could be a very interesting one indeed, Arjuna.
It's not like the margins in qualifying were big outside of those top two either. I mean, a 10th split Boothby from Siggy in third, a half a second between the entirety of the top six in a car where mistakes will get punished if you're, half a second too late getting onto the power. You feel it all the way down some of these runs into the corners, but it is now going to be a very interesting run into turn number one where Boothby's got to coordinate with his teammates to avoid being swarmed by Redline.
I've just probably read the funniest comment ever in a VCO ERL chat. We're talking about a car that's been sponsored by a company. We'll just mention it. The OnlyFans car in the British GT. And then we've got Team Horny Racing saying, it's not like it has bobs on the bonnet. Now, that is one of the best comments I've ever heard. It's a PG comment, but everyone knows what it means. And my eyes are watering right now, Arjuna. I need you to just take over for a few seconds.
Yeah, well, you thrown me under the bus right there, because now I'm the one that's crying up. But we're ready to go racing in the first of the best of three finals, and boy, we are in for a treat. The first matchup between Team Redline and Yassit in a final.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a very short then look down the grid order, as there is your pole sitter, Jules Boothby. He is top left of your screen on the left-hand side, with indeed Malinowski, who's wearing the VR, the only VR driver, and then we've got Statsenko, who's just wiping his brow there, because it is still warm in Europe, that's for sure, who will indeed be a little bit further down the order. But Boothby, if he can lead from the front here, it's not easy, not just a case of he can just drive away and go and get the win. He can also dictate the pace of this race, because it's a very difficult place to overtake. So if you can get yourself in a position to just hold firm, there might be an opportunity for the rest of your team to take advantage of everyone checking up in the field. Here's then the second of our drivers on the grid. It's the first of the Team Redline drivers. And again, look how good the liveries look on ACC. Absolutely sensational there. It's Rietveld in second spot. He is the bottom right-hand corner camera on our screens in the number 11, driving for Team Redline, Red Bull Verstappen.com Racing. That's a mouthful. It is a mouthful for sure.
And to go to your point, I don't think Boothby can afford to run away at the front, because I think if he does, I don't think Statsenko or Malinowski are going to be able to make any inroads on Redline. And with the top four invert, Boothby then lines up fourth in the second of the finals, and all the hard work in race one comes unstuck, and you've got to do it in the finals of the races. It's a very difficult question that these drivers have got to answer.
Yeah, if they are to win this, Boothby has to drive almost at 95% here. I think that is a very good point you've made there, Arjuna. Is there the capabilities of doing that? Well, we're about to find out here. As we're about to come across the line, and it's race one of our finals of potentially three. George Boothby on the right-hand side of your screen will be on pole position as we are about to go green light racing. And there it is. There's the green flags, indeed, at the back of your screen here. And, well, one of those Yaz Heat cars has to make it up to at least fourth position if Boothby wins this race for them to take race number one. But as you can see here, the Redline cars are playing defensive. They're making a brick wall almost there. But there's a mistake. There's a door left open here. And the number 71 there, that is indeed Kevin Siggy, has left the door wide open now, and he's lost that position here as well. And I tell you what, Malinowski's looking to come through as well. Boothby does lead here. Rietveld holds on to second spot, but Statsenko's done a great job here. He's up into top four.
Yeah, I think Siggy and Benito were just trying to, you said that Boothby would run at 95%. Well, the Redline duo are trying to run at maybe even 70% and just create some separation. Has not worked out well. Siggy will drop to the very back. Benito now runs in the crucial third spot while Boothby leads at the front of the field. It is shaping up very fascinatingly with Rietveld on the charge, Benito feeling the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely feeling that pressure here. And right now, as it stands, it's tied. They are both on 5 points. And just to explain to anybody that's new to this series, it's the lowest amount of points that indeed wins you the round. So P1's worth 1 point, P2 is worth 2, all the way down to 6th position that's worth 6. Between your teammates, you need to, your top two drivers count. And that is the lowest, the lowest score basically wins the round. If indeed they are tied, which they are right now, the countback goes on to penalty points first, then positions. As there's been no contact or any penalty points right now, it would indeed be 5 points for Yaz Heat, but because they're in the lead of this race, they would get the victory here as it stands. Hopefully that explains it to you all. And then the second race is a reverse of our top four. So right now, if it stays as it is, Statsenko would be pole, it would be Benito second, Rietveld in third, and Boothby in fourth position as your starter grid for race number 2. Boothby, though, has done the job he needed to do, and now, Arjuna, the whole, he could just drive away. He knows that he's got his driver into fourth position. They know that if it stays as it is, they are golden here. So now it's a perfect scenario for Boothby. Does not need to slow the pack down, can just drive away and get the victory and get this race done.
Yeah, I think this is about as perfect of a start that Yassi could have hoped for. I do think that now there's a lesson learned in the slower, the lower horsepower cars, because you can't respond as quickly as you can when you're trying to back people up. Because if someone gets in the rev range and builds the momentum, there's only so much that you can really do. For Yassi, I mean, splendid. Look how much curb usage they're taking as well. I wonder how aggressive you'll see Statsenko being, knowing that he's got Malinowski behind him playing some cover.
I was literally about to bring that up there. Splendid that you brought it up first. What a word, by the way. But yeah, Malinowski just can slow Siggy down. Simple as that. Give Statsenko as much racing room as possible just to hold on to that 4th position. That's all he needs to do right now. He's got to hope that Boothby's got to back his teammate. He's got to back his mate and say, do you know what? Boothby's good enough to hold on to this. We know rFactor's got all the talent in the world and will be able to chase down Boothby, but he's got to back him here and just go, do you know what? I want a top 4. Don't need to be pushing too hard. And then just hope that Malinowski does a job here. Well, he's doing a perfect job here. Siggy is not going to catch up 2 seconds with this standard of field in 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a technical thing about that turn 9 hairpin. It's one of those hairpins where it's not a full 90-degree, turn yourself around. It's like halfway in between 45 degrees and whatnot. It's a really technical corner that I think is so important to get right, because into turn 11, we've seen a couple of late lunges, passing opportunities with this car at this track, very difficult. But I was thinking about how this would race at Misano, thinking back to what we saw in the Summer Cup, and it really has been a splendid combo. There goes Siggy to the inside.
Yeah, this could be a splendid move here from Kevin Siggy as well. As Malinowski runs a little bit wide then through 2. And by the time they get up towards 3 here, Siggy will have the all clear, I think, to get across. No, he's still going to have to go defensive here. Through 4, then they will come. And now Siggy will indeed have that advantage. Has he got time, though, to indeed catch up to the front 4? I'm not sure he has. Statsenko, by the way, has now produced the fastest lap of the race.
He has, and if he's leading us to the green for the next one, I mean, he's clearly, you were talking about his speed and saying you expected stuff from him. It's shaping up great for that reverse grid for Statsenko and Boothby to basically flip their roles around as the 4 cars basically run nose to tail through into turn number 8.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the only thing I would say here, Boothby over the last couple of years has got a lot of experience in sim racing, but he actually was a champion on Guitar Hero. So before this, he was a Guitar Hero esports player, I guess you would call it. So rFactor's been in this position a hell of a lot more than Boothby. Benito's been in this position a hell of a lot more than Boothby. So, yeah, it's all about whether Boothby can just hang on to this position. But on this game specifically, he's been in this spot many a time before, so I'm not expecting him to crack here. But you know that rFactor's going to throw everything at him. And maybe if he can drag Benito along, sort of attack him with 2 cars.
In some ways, I think Guitar Hero probably lends itself more to preparing for this than you'd expect, as now it looks like rFactor will grab the fastest lap, because we always say sim racing is not so much about the physical because you don't feel as much, right? Because you're not sitting in the car. It's therefore about mental focus and mental strength. And at the top level of Guitar Heroes, you've got to just be focused and dialed in and not worrying about stuff around you. And that is some of the traits that carry over very well to the top level of esports. So I do wonder, it would be great to talk to George about that a little bit and ask how Guitar Hero prepared him to go sim racing.
Sounds like you're a bit of a fan there, Arjuna. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen a Guitar Hero Championship, so I wouldn't know. But all I know right now is that he is doing very well in an ACC Championship, because he's now gapping the field. Half a second now, the advantage here. And with 2 minutes, 10 seconds, that's just almost like gold dust, isn't it? Half a second with these cars is, a fair old margin.
I mean, for the record, I've never, seen a Smash tournament,
yeah, okay.
But I've played Super Smash, and I know just how good those guys are as well.
Yeah, okay, mate. I've seen all the posters on your bedroom wall.
Yes, that is true. So we got 1 lap to go then. Statsenko right on the back of Benito as they work through. Benito adding, of course, podiums to his most valuable driver tally as it runs right now. If we finished at the end of this lap, Benito held onto the podium, he would tie himself up with Peter Berryman in the Fall Cup standings. Berryman, 5 podiums last time out on iRacing.
Yeah, well, it's going to come down. That's going to be money, isn't it? Later on, I'll tell you what, Statsenko is trying to take this completely out of Redline's hands here. He is going to move up to what will be a P3 momentarily. Benito, though, is going to fight back in. We'll have the outside line for the next corner. With this race being all pretty much but done, rFactor's going to send it, because the penalty points do not transfer over to the second race. So even if there is some contact for the lead of this race, I don't think you'll find that rFactor is not going to take up an opportunity here. I think actually he's very close to the lead. He is very close here. So nail these final few corners on his next few corners, should I say, and then that run up towards the chicane, try and just outbrake and maybe make a move. And, well, actually, as soon as I say that, Booby's having an incredible sector number 1 and is just driven away once again. But yes, Statsenko, fair play to him. He's going to start, well, I'm not sure that's the best idea in all fairness, because now he's not going to start pole position, so he's kind of handed a bit of help here to Redline by gaining that position, by not backing his teammates to go out there and get the victory. So, there's a mistake there from rFactor. This is almost handed it to Yaz Heat then. So Yaz Heat with merely 20 odd seconds left. It will be the final lap of the race. The pressure, what pressure? George Boothby here performing exceptionally well. And actually, I'm going to go as far to say it's the best performance of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the call from Yassit to push Statsenko up in front of Benito. Surely you'd want him to be the point man heading to the start of final number 2, but clearly they think they've got the pace, and they've seen Redline struggle on these starts already earlier today, so I feel confident as Yassit look to strike blow number 1.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people say that was tactical by Benito. Yeah, it could well have been, but it's just the most least obvious, shall I say. Well, I'll tell you what, that's
that
very
was not
obvious there. rFactor looking to get, they're looking to get a front row here. They've completely conceded this race now. Statsenko is going to move up into second spot, and he just didn't really have time to react then. But George Boothby, doesn't matter really. He's gone out there. He needed to get the race victory. He's absolutely gone out there and got that race victory. Fair play to him. Statsenko does go second, but it will be indeed a front row start for Benito and rFactor for race number 2. But they're not going to be too worried about that, Yaz Heat, because they take leg number 1, and who would have thought that there? I think Redline definitely was everybody's favourites going into this. Yaz Heat, though, with, again, that one factor, the specialism on this sim, providing that is enough to get victory in race 1.
And to some degree, I think, Lewis, it was hard to see what Yassit were going to deliver because these races until now have been so chaotic. You strip away so many of the cars and you make it one-on-one, and we're finally seeing what Yassit have brought to the party today.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, the dynamic between the quarterfinals and the semi-finals is totally different to what we're getting now, and that's kind of the joy of these finals. They are something slightly different. They are a little bit more skewed comparatively to how the races run before, and that's why you can get such diverse results in this. Yassit really showing it in that one. Gotta say though, with the tactics that Redline pulled out there at the end, it was definitely a tactical move from Benito, because you could see how close Siggy was. I mean, Luke, you pointed out that he was 4 seconds behind, and then suddenly was like right there basically, because Benito is basically just slowing them down, trying to drag them into. I mean, it's interesting, it's intriguing. That's what I like about this, is that we get the tactical side.
Yeah, just saw Andrea Capoccia saying, it's really, I don't like to see that. Andrea, you'd be doing exactly the same if you're in that position.
Absolutely.
And this is such a unique format in terms of the sim racing world, right? You know, we have the official races that on ACC specifically, where there's like 10-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour races, of course. But this is more of an esports version. The format's completely different. This is why Team Redline are winning all of these events, right? Because they're finding the meta, that when they're under pressure, they're finding the best way of getting a result here. The only thing is you cannot factor for outright pace, which is what Yaz Heat did have in that race number 1, and they duly deserve the win.
See how the start fares out this time around. It is going to be very interesting as well. We said top 4 invert, one of the changes that we made heading out of the Spring Cup when we did the full top 6 invert. It's very much changed how some of the teams look at challenging this race. Lewis, though, as we get ready to go racing for the second final, what is the key for Yassit if they want to try and break through and snatch this in 2?
There's been one thing that's been involved in every single final that we've had so far that hasn't happened in this one yet, and that is an intervention from race control. Now, that's why I'd say for Yassit, there's one bit of, I mean, this goes both ways. The single most important thing in this race is keep your nose clean. Do not get involved in an incident, because race control have essentially decided a lot of the finals that we've had in the ERL and ERWC before it. That's what you need to avoid. That's what you need to kind of get yourself out of those positions and just keep yourself clean through the race.
And Yaz Heat have done the hard work to give themselves an opportunity to make it scrappy. So, you know, Redline are going to be on the front row, but Yaz Heat have got the opportunity here to go, you know what, maybe we can sort of, I don't know, help gain some penalty points for Redline here by racing a little bit more aggressively than maybe we have done here. And again, is it against the rules? Absolutely not here. It's a different kind of format. So yeah, interesting to see how this goes, Arjuna, but I'm just excited to get race 2 underway.
We are getting very, very close to the start of the second final of the night. We'll be right back here on VCO Esports with Yas Heat versus Team Redline.
Well, here we are then, ladies and gentle cars. It's time for race 2 of the final. Team Redline, well, they didn't win the first round because Heat, well, they performed beautifully well. But they have used their they've used their experience of this competition to tactically get themselves a front row. You may not like it, you may not love it, but ultimately it is part of the rules. I certainly love the way this competition's run. And again, it's just, you've got to be thinking outside of the box at all stages to get the maximum result. Is this going to 3 races here, Arjuna?
No. I think we're in for a shock. I think it's Yasit's time to rise to the top. Came into this event 12th in the ERL points, the final of those provisionally in ERWC 2023. This is the start of the statement and the momentum for Heat.
Wow, look at that. And also you sort of signed that off there as if it was going to be on some massive video at some point in the future as well. In a world.
Yeah,
you heard their world domination.
You heard me try and say last chance race enough times. I don't have the voice for that. We learned.
We could try. You're very good at what you do. I'm just good at saying 3 or 4 words together. When you get past sort of 5, I really do struggle. As we see a lovely little ERL Esports League badge there on the front of the cars. And again, I'm very impressed with how the liveries have actually transferred onto the cars. It's just, I don't know, it just looks a little bit more bright and vibrant this time around. So it's been much fun to commentate on, and very easy to again signify which cars are different. So here we are then, we've got ourselves 7 seconds to go as we look at the rear end of a Heat car. Hashtag Heat. Use it on social media. Go to VCO Esports as well. Maybe let them know who is going to win. There's actually a poll right now on YouTube. Heat or Team Redline for Heat number 2. I've just voted. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, but I voted. And now we go towards the final chicane then. Will it go to 3 races or will it be 2? Will this be enough for Heat to claim victory here for the Fall Cup on ACC? We're about to find out then. It is Jeffrey Rietveld on pole position. Benito in second. When you need a big game player, you bring Jeffrey Rietveld into play. Also, Enzo Benito as a wingman. That is an incredible concoction of drivers. Green flags are about to indeed drop down, and we have dropped them down. An already incredible start then from Statsenko. I think he might have a little bit of an overlap here, but he's got to battle with his teammate effectively. So Boothby doing the clever thing there, getting out of the way. As we come through turn number 1, a bit of argy-bargy between Heat and Redline, and that could give the opportunity for Boothby to move up into 3rd position. Statsenko is going to take a nice wide entrance and let Boothby go through here. That's very clever driving from them all. A little bit of door banging there, nothing more than that, I would say. And Heat here looking so good.
It's physical, but Robin is racing. Here's the move to the inside as Benito tries to get back up into the podium. Bit of a wobble there from Statsenko, but he'll hold on. It is now Heat 2nd and 3rd as Rietveld leads them into the chicane.
Malinowski also passed Kevin Siggy, which could be massive going into the latter stages of this race. Still side-by-side action then between Benito and Statsenko. I think Benito may have got that job done. He does. Very aggressive driving. No, it wasn't him. Was it actually? No. Benito's still in P4. So that was the battle then at the back between Malinowski and Kevin Siggy. And Malinowski here could be a massive factor in this. If he can get the position away from Benito, that would be enough for Heat to take victory without winning this race. So the 3rd driver, we haven't really needed them so far, but this could be huge if Malinowski can close that gap.
We've seen how hard it is to close, let alone pass at the front of the field. So with 6.5 minutes to go, you are 100% right. I think it will also be looking backwards, though, for Malinowski to make sure Siggy stays at the back of the pack and can't impact this situation around 4th position, because it is going to be this fight which decides if we need one more fight, one more final with qualifying, or if we get it done in this next 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, just to confirm for anybody watching at home, the 3rd race would go back to a qualifying for the grid. So it would not be a reverse grid of the top 4 or 6. It would literally be qualifying once again. I think Statsenko could play a huge part here by slowing down Benito. If Boothby, I don't think Boothby's going to have the pace to catch up the Rietveld here. I think leading a race is just so much more beneficial than being behind, because you can just hit your brake points. I think the way you're seated in the car makes it very difficult to follow anybody with any real conviction or real pace. So right now, and it won't happen now, it'll be maybe with 3 minutes to go, I think you might see Statsenko drop and try and slow down Benito and give Malinowski an opportunity to maybe get that 3rd Heat car into that top 4.
have to wait and see how it fares out. Short races, not really worried about tires too much. You're not going to put too much load into them and hold yourself back on this platform, so not too concerned about that. You mentioned VCO social media, by the way. Just wanted to give a shout out to all of our content crew. It's Elliot Roberts behind the virtual camera today. Anything that our VCO community is seeing on social media comes from a team that works just as hard as us here in the commentary booth, although I think we have more fun getting to shout about race cars.
Wow, yeah, they work a lot harder than Lewis, that's for sure, but maybe not us too.
Into the hairpin, Benito with a look, and this is all inside of that grouping. Remember what we saw at the end of race 1, where we weren't sure if Statsenko wanted to get the move done. For Benito, I wonder if he wants to get it done more to just protect himself from Malinovsky behind.
Has to, 100% has to here. And this is not the worst thing in the world for Statsenko. Again, Heat have got themselves an opportunity here to make this race mixy. Make it so that Redline have to force moves and the potential contact there as well. Because any penalty points will cost you. If Redline get a penalty point, it's game over, right? Heat are going to take victory here. So right now, because of the performance of George Boothby, Heat have got a massive opportunity here. So here we go. We're looking at a replay between Siggy and indeed Malinovsky here by the looks of things. And wow, Siggy gets boxed in by his own teammate here. Can't make any move forward, and that is, again, I think Benito, isn't it? So Benito just goes side by side there with Malinovsky, and it's just a case of he's turned in, there's a car there, there's nothing in that. Nothing. It's a good replay, but I'm not sure there's anything in that.
Yeah, no, it explains why Malinovsky ran wide, because I think we were both a little bit confused about that one. Just trying to take advantage of the situation. It shows that being on the outside, on the braking zone into turn 5 is definitely not the preferred option. Great run, though, from Benito through the chicane. This should send him up into turn 7.
Yeah, jumpy cars. A lot of no grip on the outside of this left-hander, though, as we come through. But I'll tell you what, he's going to make this move here. Opens up the chicane nicely. Oh, a bit of contact between the two of them. Then cones flying up in the air. Off the track we will go there for Benito. Perfect opportunity now here for Malinovsky. Malinovsky's got that overlap. Will go up the inside here. And well, I'll tell you what, this has worked out perfectly well for Heat. We'll have to look at exactly how that went down. But right now, Redline under some severe pressure.
Benito was the one that was on the offense trying to make the move. It was Statsenko who was trying to defend, and now Malinovsky has taken advantage. It is advantage to Heat as we approach what should be, I think, 2 laps to go, but into the final chicane, Malinovsky already defensive.
Yeah, he's gone defensive there, and he's just about hit the apex, so he's all good. But Siggy, who now has moved up into P5, has been realistically, and this is crazy to say, Kevin Siggy's been the slowest of the 3 Redline drivers today. So right now, I'm wondering, can they afford to put Benito ahead of him? I think they'd lose too much time. And well, this is advantage to Heat with Boothby in second, Statsenko in third. That'd be 5 points. And Rietveld and Siggy adding their points together, even with a race victory, it'll be 6 points. So Heat on the verge here of making it a championship victory, another new team to the championship victory in our ERL championship. But well, if there's one team that you can never count out, it is indeed Redlines. We do see a replay here. Arjuna, take us through it.
Yeah, so we're on board with this setup from Benito. Shows the look. Puts doubt into the mind of the Heat car, and then you just see the curbs just not striking well in that M2 CS Racing Cup. Maybe the suspension on the Redline car a little bit more compliant. And from here it was down into the chicane, trying to get to the inside at 7. Sent it under the brakes, did Benito, and I think it's fair to say he does not leave any room at all for Statsenko. Racing incident there, and a little bit of contact afterwards as well.
Yeah, but then Statsenko's done exactly the same to him on the exit of the chicane there. So let them race. Let them race. Let them race. That's fine. Again, it's not ideal for Redline in terms of the positions there, but they're both as bad as each other in that situation. It's hard racing. Is it fair? Oh, it's on the very limit of it, but they've both done exactly the same to each other there, and Redline just came off worse. Well, fair play to Malinovsky on the exit of that replay. We didn't quite catch the actual move, but he had a little bit of contact with Enzo, but was still very, very committed and managed to indeed hold on to that position. Malinovsky, I said, could be very much a key in this battle here for Heat winning this, and right now, by being in 4th position, he is everything to indeed Heat. He cannot afford to lose position, as there's a bit of a slip slide there on the exit from Kevin Siggy. Loses the rear as well, but again, loses maybe a tenth and a half as we now run on to the final lap of today's race.
It's going to take a Herculean effort for Siggy, you'd have to think. All Malinovsky has to do is basically park it on the apex and work with his teammate to hold off the challenge of those 2 Redline cars behind. Boothby, Rietveld in postal codes of their own, excuse me, but Siggy with the up and under attempted, not going to get it done into turn 4.
No, he's not going to get it done here. He's going to try and look again. He's trying absolutely everything here to get this moving. Again, one position swing between Redline and Yaz Heat here. It would be enough. As you can see, there's a mistake there on the exit of 3. And now the door has been well and truly left open. The outside line then for Kevin Siggy. Is he going to make this stick? He's on the brakes very, very late here. He gets squeezed then by the Yaz Heat car. Cuts the corner there. Not sure he had anywhere else really to go. He is now up into that position. Kevin Siggy has put himself in a spot here where now Redline would win this race. But again, was it a cut? Did he gain an advantage? Did he have any choice in gaining that advantage?
Benito almost just ran straight into the back of Malinovsky as well on the entry into turn 7, had to very much slow it down. And, well, it may be irrelevant what race control decides. If Malinovsky can get it done on Siggy, he'll try the up and under, will switch to the inside, and with contact, it's yet up to 4th.
Again, I don't think that's on Malinovsky there at all. I think Malinovsky is going to hit the apex every day there. Unfortunately, Kevin Siggy's turned onto the apex. It was aggressive, but I think that was a really good move. It just looks worse there because Kevin Siggy's turned in. rFactor, though, is about to come across the line. He is about to pick up victory. But again, before we see any of the incidents looked at, we have to give it here to Yaz Heat. I think Yaz Heat was 2nd and 3rd are potentially going to get things done here, although Siggy, 4th then for Malinovsky. Benito, Siggy in 5th and 6th. I think we can say that Yaz Heat indeed are the champions today. Again, we'll have to have race directors look at it. That was frantic. People taking chances. It's exactly what this format lends itself to. It's exactly what I want to see. I want to see drivers leave it all out there. Tomorrow, you know, oh, I got a couple of penalty points and maybe didn't quite go as well, but at least they all gave it their all for us watching.
And what a way to get it done as well. If indeed that was the move that secures it for Yaz Heat, Lewis, there isn't many better ways than a switchback late on the brakes on the very final lap.
I mean, I agree with Luke there. It was a super move to have got it, to have switched it back so perfectly, because it's so easy in that sense to kind of rub over the rear end of the car as you're trying to get back over to the right. Judged it beautifully, just about enough space, and it looked a lot worse because, again, it did seem as though Kevin Siggy turned in. That's what caused the contact. I think Statsenko, like that for me, that moves on. The bit where I'd have a bit of a question mark was Siggy absolutely blasting it over the first chicane. That's where it's kind of like, that was probably a bit naughty. I agree with you, lads. I think this is Yaz Heat. I think Race Control still got a bit to look at, but I'm pretty sure Yaz Heat.
I need to see a replay. Need to see a replay of that, because it again was sensational. I think Siggy just turning in more reactionary, wasn't it, to the pass there. And it's one of those, either Malinovsky makes it and it looks incredible, or everybody ends up in the wall, the far side of the track. That was, I think, again, we're going to look at it. I think that could be a very special move and a very important one as well, because that could hand the championship to Yaz Heat.
We're adding moments in our ERL history books, right? We think back to the Tauscher. I mean, we've got a name for
the Tauscher.
We've got names for some of these moments now, and I we're not even a year into this journey with the ERL, the ERWC, and we've had so much fun. We'll have so much more fun. We'll let Race Control confirm before we confirm that Yaz Heat are officially your winners, but it does indeed seem as though we are trending. We don't need 3 races in these finals. We can get it sorted in just 2. How close it was at the very end. I mean, this car, Luke, was fantastic. It was hard to pass, but it required setup and to capitalize on mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? I'm just going to throw that to the side ever so slightly here, because I've said that there is the opportunity for one driver to be able to drag a team to winning one of these events. I think we can say that about George Boothby today. And don't get me wrong, that pass was Malinovsky, of course, and Statsenko's played his part, but Boothby has been so far ahead of everybody in terms of being in the right place at the right time, picking his opportunities, making the moves when it needs to happen, qualifying pole when it needs to happen, winning races when it needs to happen. I think that we can safely say this is the best individual performance we may have ever seen in the ERL so far.
That's saying a lot as well, because we have seen some sterling performances over the course of this year. I mean, Lewis, for Yaz Heat, what does this mean for them as well? I mean, we saw them miss 1 round of the Summer Cup, still looking good for the ERWC. And as we get official confirmation that Yaz Heat indeed are winners today here in the Fall Cup on Assetto Corsa Competizione, it's momentum for Yaz Heat as we build to ERWC 2023.
Yeah, obviously they were at the bottom of those that are going to go through to the ERWC. They're the one that were on the bubble with only 2 rounds left to go. Of course, round 3 of the ERL Fall Cup and then the Masters, which doesn't give out too many points, so it's not even that much of a worry in that sense. is effectively they've confirmed themselves completely to going through into the ERWC II next year, which again is great. They're carrying momentum. They're looking strong. This is the performance that we kind of maybe harshly we expected from them a long time ago. We said before that they should have won before, just based on the pace, based on the drivers they've got, based on the commitment that they've got in the world of sim racing. They've got drivers on all of the platforms that are strong on all of the platforms, and the fact that it's taken them this long to take a victory is a bit of a surprise. But from now on, is this a new Yaz Heat?
Helps that they turn up with 3 drivers this time.
That does help.
Out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it helps that they've had that, but they've been consistent. It's not, by no means have they been slow. Inside of the top 10 in all bar 2 of the ERL events this year. We'll grab a look at this and the moments that defined the race. And it starts again on the run into the chicane, Luke.
Yeah, so you see this here. Oh, it's just, late move for defending there. So you can almost say that the Yaz Heat shouldn't be moving that late, but then had to leave the room in the end. And look at this. Yeah, there's not much. What can you do there? Like, the advantage was gained, but there wasn't any room left for them to go anywhere else there. So Siggy had to cut off the circuit. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't mind being at that position. It's kind of, I get away with it here. But then it comes through to this chicane here. Then it comes through the right-hander, and look at the run that Malinovsky gets here. And Siggy is one of the very best on the multi-platform drivers. There's not many out there that you can say are world level on multi-platforms. Kevin Siggy is one of those. Malinovsky fakes to go around the outside, then late lunge up the inside. It's perfect. Yeah, Siggy turns in, and he runs out a little bit wide there, but if Siggy's side by side, door to door, there was still enough room left out there. As soon as Siggy indeed turned in, run himself off the circuit, Malinovsky had the room just to scoop over, make sure no one can make any advancements there, but that was delicious. So it all starts there really from, Siggy kind of being squeezed into a position to gain the spot. But Malinovsky didn't panic. I think that's the main thing in that situation. A lot of drivers in a 10-minute format race or 8-minute format race, they would have panicked in that situation. And Malinovsky, I'm going to tell you that right now, is one of the very best on ACC. Has not had a good day today for Yaz Heat. He has not had a good day at all, really. I'm expecting to see him being on pole position on the front row. When it mattered, he's just provided a move that's won them the whole thing. So yeah, you've just got to tip your hat sometimes, and Kevin Siggy will be pretty angry with how the situation's gone down, but he will look back on this and go, do you know what, that was a bloody good move.
It was fantastic, and you've sung the praises today of one man. You've said it's the best performance of the entire ERL. We are now joined by George Boothby, and I'll let you have the first question, Luke.
Yeah, George, I've just been saying, today it's been your day. I wouldn't say that the other 2 drivers in your team have been particularly poor, but when it's mattered, you've qualified pole. When you've needed to win a race, you've got the job done. And when you needed one position in the race, you've absolutely got it done. I would say you're one of the best ACC drivers out there right now. How does winning this feel for you?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that was probably the best performance I've personally done. We didn't have much practice. I only hopped on it yesterday, but this car just gels with me, I guess. I don't know, since it got released, I just sort of know how to get it into the corners and how to trail brake with it and stuff, and that's why you saw maybe a lot of bigger names struggling a bit. But yeah, just quite lucky that this car was chosen for this round, I guess. And yeah, I had a really good I had really good pace, so I was able to qualify on pole or at least close to pole in most of the races. I had a bit of a mare in the second was it the quarterfinal? I think it might have been the quarterfinal. But thankfully we pulled together as a team, we played it tactically, and we managed to make it through. But I don't think we were thinking about the win, if I'm honest. We were thinking we could be quite far up there, but the win was a little bit out of reach in our heads. But yeah, as soon as we got into the final, we were like, let's just see what happens in race 1 and play it from there. Race 1 went perfect for us. And then race 2, obviously, it's we're starting behind them, so we've got to make the moves. So we just sent it, tried to be as clean as we could. There was a little bit of rubbing as racing, I guess, here and there. But yeah, we all did what we needed to do, and I'm just so proud of our team. Just so proud of them. So, yeah.
How much do you carry forward from the GT3 cars to this? Because, of course, you have the advantage of being on a comfortable platform in an environment where you have open setups, but it's very different going from an aero beast like a GT3 to a momentum-based car like this.
Yeah, so I think that might be another thing that I'm benefiting, because it's a lot of people don't have too much practice with it. The driving style for this car is really braking early, getting the rotation, and then powering out. Whereas the GT3, because it's got so much power, you can just send it into a corner, and then as soon as you've like made the apex, on the throttle go, and you can really throw it into the corners of GT3s. So this car's a lot smoother, and it sort of reminds me of like a 4-stroke go-kart or something, because any slides you lose time, right? So whereas I don't know, so it's just, I don't know, I have a lot of practice in that. So like I've done lots of indoor karting leagues and outdoor karting leagues with 4-stroke karts. So like, I know it sounds silly to compare it, but it really does help, and it really did feel like that. It's just keeping your apex speed at the highest, being as smooth as possible, focus on your exits, and yeah, it just worked for me today. So yeah, really happy.
Well, George Boothby led Yacide, but it wasn't him that made the move that got it done, Luke.
No, it certainly wasn't. We're going to be joined by Statsenko, though, now. I think we're going to be waiting for Malinowski for a little bit of time here. But Mikhail, incredible performance once again. The first time you've got to the top step in the ERL. And what has it taken for you to just make that extra step and sort of move forward towards at least to get into the final, but now actually winning one?
Yeah, thank you a lot. I guess it was having George in the team, first of all. And then a bit of teamwork with Machi. We made a lot of like teamwork overtakes. Then I was like trying to overtake someone, create space for my teammate. So it was like teamwork with Machi and basically having George on the pace. That's it.
I mean, you talk about this teamwork. Is this something that you've had to do in any other sort of esports racing, or is that something that you're really only having to do because of the format here in the ERL?
I think it has to do mostly with format, but then cars themselves. We are not GT3s. Like racing is way more like aggressive in this class, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, massive congratulations. We've spoken about George Boothby maybe having one of the best performances of the ERL all time. And well, maybe what about Malinowski with probably for me the best move we've ever had. Malinowski, talk us through not only losing the position initially, but how you managed to gain composure to then retake the spot to get your team to victory.
Well, unfortunately, past week I'm ill, so I was like completely not up to task. But it was, for me, I knew that I'm not gonna be able, in terms of pace, to really perform and focus 100% all the time and deliver the lap times. I didn't really had even much energy to practice either. So fortunately, in terms of the pace, Misha and George did an amazing job. They carried the team today. But of course, I was still there, that third car that could do some moves, just ensure that in terms of track position, in terms of points, we have the cars on the track position when they're supposed to be, that we can work together in terms of racecraft. So when I needed to do moves, it was then full focus and do some stuff. Unfortunately, the last lap, I went a little bit wide in turn, I think it's 4. But yeah, into the last sector, if we lose, we go into the third round of the final, right? If it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out. So it's all or nothing. So I knew it has to be a stand because I was already far behind him. It had to be a big dummy because obviously he's gonna cover it. So I had to stick to the left as much as possible just to make him maybe open the door a little bit. The gap was there, so I just dived in, hope for the best, and then fortunately it just sticked.
I want to ask you about racing in virtual reality. It's something that you don't really see too much, especially at this level of sim racing. What do you find that it gives you in terms of a benefit compared to regular monitors that other people use?
Just pure enjoyment. I don't really find any competitive advantage in it. It's just that whenever I had the opportunity to try it, I liked it a lot. The whole idea of VR and having that virtual world around you, being able to look around, the immersion factor of it just appealed to me. And I liked it so much, and it wasn't really making my performance suffer in any way. So I just kept with it, and I just keep on driving with it because it isn't really much of a challenge for me in terms of physically to drive in VR, because it is more of a you sweat a lot more in VR, you have a hot headset on your head. Sometimes with motion sickness, some people have struggles, but I'm just lucky enough that I tolerate VR experience really well, so I can enjoy it a lot more even in those kind of competitions.
Sometimes you just need to be having fun. Great to talk to the 3 winners for Yassit, and we'll bring back in Lewis McLeod as we get set to wrap things up here for the ERL Fall Cup round on Assetto Corsa. Yes, 2 weeks from today we head to rFactor 2, and then we'll just have the Masters left to go in this year of ERL in 2022. And Lewis, what a journey it's been so far. I'm quite sad that we're winding down now for the year.
And that's just how these things go. It just makes us look forward to next year even more so. There's so much more that we can do with this style of format, so much experimentation that we get to take on, and that's why we love having a format which has it open for that level of experimentation. But we have to look forward to the ERWC II. That's the big thing on the horizon. That's the big stepping stone that we're all ready for, I hope. But certainly in the commentary booth, I'm raring to go. I can't wait for it.
Luke, we get to add another winner to our ranks of the ERL history books today. And for Yassit, I'm sure it's a long time coming for them.
Yeah, they fully deserve it as well. But again, they've been ill prepared, if we're going to be honest here. You know, I'm sure that's going to upset somebody. But they've been ill prepared. They turned up with 2 people. And sometimes it's because of illness. Other times is, you know, could maybe have brought someone else in, I guess. But yeah, look at what happens when you bring 3 class drivers in. It worked out perfectly well. ACC seems to be the most wild card out of our 3 platforms really at this point. But I will say, and it's very rare that I get things right, but I did say as the further we go along with this, Redline have got a target on their back. Teams are going to improve. That, you know, there's only so much Team Redline can improve as being the best team, right? Everyone else has got them and more potentially to grow into. And it's just, yeah, it's showcasing right now that there are many, many teams here. The World Cup is not going to be cut and dry when we get to it. The Masters is not going to be cut and dry when we get to it. Very, very exciting future for this little championship. It really is.
We've got a lot of fun things in store, that's for sure. Next time out, of course, is a Stock Car 2018. Quick look at the most valuable driver, the driver that gets the most podium regardless of platforms in each of our cups. Currently, it's Peter Berryman, all 5 of them coming on iRacing, but Boothby and Benito have started to catch up. Boothby with 4 podiums today, Rietveld as well with 4 podiums today. Oh, this is a treat, that's for sure. And what a exciting display of racing that we had from this BMW M2 CS Racing Cup. As always, we thank our friends at Kunos and Assetto Corsa Competizione for helping us to put on these events, as well as SimGrid, P1 Gaming, and Formula Sim Racing for their help behind the scenes. For everyone at VCO, for Mike Yao behind the scenes, and for my partners in crime, Luke Crane, as well as Lewis McLeod. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time to wrap up the Fall Cup and get set for the Masters. We're winding down on the road to the Esports Racing World Cup. We'll see you next time. So long.